Hey, everybody. Welcome to WitchLab Wednesday Live. Today is September 22nd, 2021. Happy equinox, blessed Mabon, happy fucking fall, right? And today is, well, I mean, it's rainy, but it's beautiful. It's like fall weather. It's actually like 50 some degrees right now, which is pretty sweet, seeing as it was like 90 last week. So, yay. I'm excited. I'm excited to bring out the sweaters and the cider and scary movies. It's my favorite. Okay, thank you guys for joining me. Uh, it's going to be a really good show. My guest tonight is going to be haunted historian and founder of Columbus Ghost Tours, Bucky Cutright. So we're going to bring him out in just a minute. So what's news, right? This week, so this week, WitchLab, we reached a goal, an achievement, if you will. We had our first religious zealot, our first like on the corner protesting our presence, talking about Satan and the darkness and everything. It was I feel like we made it. I feel like I got there. I feel like I've been recognized. And they don't bother me, and they're not doing anything bad to anybody. She didn't hassle any customers. She was actually really nice. Her name was Natalie. So but yeah, I mean, as long as they're at my place, they can't be hassling people at Planned Parenthood or, making people feel like shit. So I'm all right with it. So let's see. Oh, we are getting new t-shirts and hoodies. I just ordered them, and I can give you a sneak peek of the art. So let's see. The the hoodie is going to be not the same. It's not going to be the goat again. It's going to be what the eyeball t-shirts were. So this guy is going to be on the back of a hoodie. Very excited. And then we have all new shirt designs. This badass motherfucker right here, right? Hecate Strophilos and the cross keys. Super excited. Once again, our incredible graphic designer, Jason Kincaid, is doing that stuff. And while I'm showing you cool things, because the next thing I'm going to tell you about is the updates on the Dionysus party, right? So we have this thing, right? Which is super sweet. Look at that. Look at that sexy man, right? Yep. This is the Dionysus flyer and the back. And these will be printed and out and about and around, so you can get all the details on them, and also keep one because they're fucking cool. I still have one from the dark market on my fridge because they're just beautiful. Okay, what's next? What am I telling you about now? So the party. Okay. So updates, right? We have now Lance Cashmere, who is basically Jason's alter ego. He's gonna be doing spooky lounge songs. Very excited about that. And we have the Dionysus ritual that we'll be doing, which is going to be a live ritual performance. And then we have secured Emmy Lazarus and the recently deceased, who is an amazing like 60s style original music, all spooky stuff. Very excited. So if you want to see them, you can look them up on Facebook. Emmy Lazarus and the recently deceased. 2 food trucks, Firefox Tacos and JoJo's Catering will be there. And we have palm reader. So the passionate palmist is DeBay is her name, and she is the best palm reader I have ever met personally. She's incredible, and we got her. So she's going to be there. Tarot reading by the Hermit Oracle, who is my good friend Peggy. Very excited with that. And the Buckland Museum of Witchcraft and Magic will also have a booth, so you can hang out and talk to them about all the cool stuff that you can see if you go up to Cleveland and visit them. And I'm developing 2 new products for this that are going to be a Dionysus bath kit and a Dionysus ritual oil that will be available only at this show at first. So first time you'll be able to get it. So October 16th, 7 to midnight. Don't miss it. And for those of you who have already bought tickets before I even had anything booked, thank you for your faith in me that I'm going to throw you a good party. You're like, fuck it, I'm just going to buy the tickets. I don't even care what they're doing. So that's awesome. And thank you for everyone who signed up to volunteer. We have so many volunteers. I don't even know that we're going to be able to schedule all of you, but we'll be sending out schedules within a week. Upcoming stuff, monthly meetings. Circle of the Dark Mother meeting is always on the first Sunday of every month, and you can find the Zoom link for that on the events page on the WitchLab page. October's meeting is going to be a live Samhain ritual with the Circle of the Dark Mother guys. So Mark, Brandon, James. That's going to be the Feast of the Blessed Dead. So that's definitely worth tuning into. I've been to many of their Samhain rituals, and they're gorgeous and uplifting and uh, make you feel good. WitchLab Book Club, the Cultum Librorum, is going to be on the last Sunday of every month. So that's coming up soon. This month's book is Magic of Food by Guion Raven. If you guys remember, Guion was on the show with Phoenix. I don't remember when. It was a while ago. It was this year, though. Next month's book is up in the air. So if you want to have a say in what next month's book is, you can join the club and then vote at the poll. And it's Cultum Librorum on Facebook. And remember to answer the questions so that you can get in the club. Because if you don't answer the questions that make you ask, then you don't get in. Saturday, October 2nd, Najah Lightfoot will be at WitchLab in person. Join her for an evening filled with intimate conversation about her path as a witch, an author, a writer, as well as she'll be giving magical tips to keep the good juju flowing in your life. As you know, she is the writer of Good Juju, and she will be autographing copies of her book then as well. So if you already bought a book, bring it, and if you didn't, buy one and have her sign it. She is so lovely and so full of laughter and so just great to be around. So I'm very excited. October 6th, Kobe Michael will be on WitchLab Wednesday Live, and we will be talking about his class that's coming up at WitchLab on October 8th, and his book that was supposed to be coming out that week, but their date keeps getting pushed back. So I'm still trying to get books in time for the class, but even if we don't, it's still an amazing Poison Path class. October 10th. Oh, October 10th. I haven't talked to you guys about this at all. We're going to have a small booth at the Oracle. The Oracle is a little bar in Old Town East that's quite lovely. They have a very large backyard area, and they do Halloween events. And so we are going to have a little booth there. And Libby, Tarot by Libby is what she goes by on Instagram. Libby Bruce is her name. She's an amazing tarot reader. She's been reading at the Oracle for years. She'll be dressed as Elvira, and she's going to be introducing silent old horror movies, which is going to be really fun. And also, by the way, Elvira came out today. So, I thought that was amazing and wonderful and just really, really amazing news. And I read somebody had said that the amazing thing is that Elvira's girlfriend has been not telling everybody that she's Elvira's girlfriend for the past however many years. That's the amazing thing. Like, how do you keep a lid on that? I don't know. October 16th, the Dionysus and the Dead Party. You guys already know all about that. And I forgot to say, it is a dance party. It is a costume party. There's going to be music the whole time, regardless of whether a band's playing, because we have DJ Big Dad. As you guys know, Chris Sherman, he's an amazing DJ. He'll actually be there all night spinning between the stuff. So, and wear a costume. You got to wear a costume. You either got to be dead or some sort of Grecian god thing, or both. I don't care. Or horns. Horns are always okay at a WitchLab, any event ever. Okay. We have so many events. I'm sorry. October 20th, Shiva Honey, Satanist and author of The Devil's Tome and designer of the Devil's Deck, will be here. And November 3rd, Victoria Constantino will be on the show discussing her new book, Tarot by the Moon. November 6th, WitchLab will be at the Witches Ball. The Witches Ball is going to be at the Convention Center here in Columbus. It is November 6th, starts at 7 p.m. It's being put on by the Magical Druid. They are wonderful people. I'm very excited. And November 13th, we have Intuitive Witchcraft Workshop with Estrella Taylor happening in person at the shop. December 4th, Evo Dominguez will be here. January, we've got Mystery of Dreams at the shop, and we've got Mandala Workshop, both being taught by Maggie Caldwell, a student of Ingo Dominguez, which is very cool. February 23rd, this is new, just booked this. Amy Blackthorne, the baddest of the badass people in magic, will be on the show discussing her newest book on protection magic. Very excited. And then, of course, Judah Kalis will be back in March. So that's all my upcoming stuff. Thank you for bearing with me. That was a lot. Let's get our guest out here. Yeah. So in all of the time I've been in Columbus, which has been 21 years now, I have had the pleasure to meet so many wonderful and interesting people. My line of work just kind of lets me do that. And this guy is one of my absolute favorites. He is a historian of the haunted. a storyteller of true crime and paranormal interactions, a captivating guide to the ghosts of Columbus and beyond. Folks, allow me to introduce the founder of Columbus Ghost Tours, Bucky Cutright.
Hi, Tiffany. Thank you.
I'm so happy that you're here. I'm so
I'm
happy
so
that you
happy to
agreed
be
to
here.
have this.
Yes, I love to be here. And can we just a big round of applause for Elvira? You know, how amazing is that? And I it's funny for me because whenever I was a young boy in rural West Virginia, she would be on, and these religious zealots, which I don't know if you've ever encountered any or not, Natalie, but they would always they were trying to get her off the air because her boobs and her and darkness and everything. When they finally succeeded in my community, that's when my thoughts started turning towards. So I always like to think it's kind of funny that they've undone themselves in that manner, and now Elvira is in part, she's family. That's
I know. Yeah, it's
wonderful.
the alphabet mafia. That's their
Yeah,
name.
exactly. Yeah.
Oh, it makes me so happy. Something I forgot to do is say hi to everybody. So just a quick roll call to say hi to Peggy and Christina and Betty and Lori. I've got new people on here that I'm pretty sure are because of you. We've got a lot of watchers today.
Oh, well,
Um,
wonderful,
yeah,
wonderful.
I
Hi,
know.
everybody.
Connie and Misty Marie and Rose, our wonderful Mystic Rose. Let's see who else. There's a lot here. Jess, Jean, Shelly, Sonia, Marcy. My gosh, that's a hell of a day here at WitchLab Wednesday Live. Jason's here.
Wonderful.
Other Jason's here.
Hi, Jason. I don't have a martini, but
I'm actually not drinking tonight. Can you believe it? Oof. I drank last night and the night before.
Okay.
I'm
Well,
gonna keep it on the. I'm drinking a lot. I'm hydrating though.
look at that. Is that a skull mug?
It is. It is. This
Okay.
came from Treasure Island back when Treasure Island was a casino
Ooh.
at Atlantic City.
I have a
I'm sorry, Vegas.
I have a glass skull back there, but it used to have tequila or vodka in it. It was Dan Aykroyd's vodka. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
have one of those.
Mm, mm,
It's not a lot of vodka, but it's really good vodka.
yeah.
The skulls don't hold as much as I usually. I buy a handle.
Need a bigger brain. I think that's why he probably transitioned to the alien head.
So it's more. That's like the beta
Yeah,
size.
yeah. The volume is the super size of a.
All right. So you are, for those of you who don't know Bucky, he actually is a ghost tour guide, creator of a company, and designer of many tours, right?
Mhm.
Both here and internationally.
Yes, yeah, yeah. Actually, this is it was 3 years ago. This past week that we were in Ireland on our first international tour. But I started this company. I'm going into my 10th year,
Oh my
actually.
gosh.
Yeah, doing these. So it began as a sort of a thing for friends, and it just sort of blossomed into what it is. The ghost found me.
So you started it for friends. So you were just like, gather round, friends. I'm going to tell you about this
Well,
place we're in.
yeah. Well, actually, it was uh, I guess 10 years ago, a group of friends and I, we were going to go on one of the local landmark foundation tours, which are wonderful, and I always encourage people to check those out. But at the same time, like, this was 10 years ago, and my friends were a little bit rowdier than the folks that would normally probably attend those types of tours. So I could see where it would have not gone well. And someone suggested, my friend Mary Groves and my friend John Schumacher were like, "Hey, why don't you do your own tour, Bucky?" And I had some free time, so I just sort of pulled something together, and I had my friend Erica Price, her mother is a seamstress, and I had her make me that devil costume that you see right there.
I love that devil
Yeah,
costume.
yeah. I had this idea of like, well, who would be a good guide through the haunted and horrible history of a town, Satin Satan, you know? So I had her make me that, and everywhere we
Uh,
went,
we actually, is it this person here?
there's Mary. Hi, Mary.
Hi,
She's one of
Mary.
that's Mary. She's one of the people that is the reason that I do what I do today for a living. So thank you, Mary.
Thank
Um,
you, Mary,
and
for
Leslie.
me. Thank you.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So we started doing these, and it was just supposed to be for friends, but so many people wanted to go that first year. We had to do like 2 or 3 of them, and just to accommodate everyone on the buses, because it was all a bar tour. And every place we went, people were asking for business cards and wanting to know where they could sign up. So this is, yeah, like I said, it found me, which is um, the way you want to go about a career if possible.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. And I think, I met you because somebody had an extra ticket for a
Hmm.
tour. And so I
Hmm.
went. It was the
It,
Booze and Booze tour, and it started at the Short North Tavern,
yep.
and it was amazing. It
It
was, I
was
mean, we went.
Trinity and Jason from Big Fun.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep,
Yep.
and we went to all the different bars, and you told us these wonderful stories, and you introduced me to some of like these tiny little places I didn't know existed in Columbus,
Yeah.
like Ringside Cafe, and
Hmm.
it was like it was incredible.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I mean, that was the idea. Was I've always had a foot in history, and I felt that it's a really important thing to introduce people to the history of the community that they're living in. And Columbus is a place that's transitory. You know,
Mhm.
people come here, they go to college, or that maybe they just pick up a job at, for Wexner, and pump up their resume, and then they move on to someplace else, and they don't really have a sense of place here, and that leads to a lack of respect for the location that you live in, and or just, I mean, I think giving people this idea of here's where you're at, and this is what this place is about and has been about, kind of helps people get a little bit more enjoyment out of where they're living at any given moment. And if you can do so and introduce local businesses at the same time, then, or I'm sorry.
I love that you have props.
Mhm.
And you did too. You introduced a bunch of people to a bar they'd never been to
Mhm.
before, and I love the idea of giving people that feeling of being tied to where they live, because now
Yeah.
they know the history. I have learned so much about Columbus from you.
Mhm.
Um, the fact that a lot of it is, on top of what used to be graveyards.
Yes, yeah, yeah. This is the whole state was basically a burial grounds at one point, you know. So it's and it was a mecca for all of North America 2,000 years ago, which is just fascinating. I mean, like in terms of whether you're thinking about witchcraft or just a spirituality or energy or anything, this was a center for people. Um, Whenever they weren't distracted by cell phones or movies or television or anything like that, this is where they felt the most was happening, energy wise, 2,000 years ago. And that's kind of cool. I mean, it makes living in Central Ohio a little bit more splashy, doesn't it?
Ooh, there's
Uh,
excitement here. I,
uh-huh.
I, I think that things like what your business does makes Columbus much better. Like I think
Thank
it may you uncover the hidden interesting stuff about it. Like
you.
we
Yeah.
like the things that you've taught me, like the stuff outside the boathouse, and how massacres,
Mhm.
all of these things that I had no idea. So okay, so and I know that you probably have gotten this question in interviews a lot, but I want to hear you tell me some stories, and so I would like to hear what what are some of the most haunted places in Columbus, in your
Well,
opinion?
well, I always tell people, isn't one ghost enough whenever you think of in terms of like most haunted,
I guess
but
I mean like a lot of
but
activity, like.
yeah, but the one place that that really definitely is more active, at least in the realm of our tours and that sort of thing, has always been the boathouse,
Oh, okay.
which was really shocking to a lot of people because it's a more modern build. It was constructed in 1986, and uh,
But the land it's on.
yes, the land it's on, and it's also the confluence of the Scioto and the Olentangy. So there's that whole electromagnetic energy sort of thing going on, and it has always been a site of intense activity, and it's one of those places where, I mean, whenever we take people on tours of bars and restaurants, when we could do that or can do that, and there are certain, there'll be staff that are new or have only been there a short while, and they'll be like, "Yeah, this is silly, whatever." But the boathouse is some place where I'll be going through with groups and telling stories, and you'll have staff members just coming up left and right, like, "Oh my god, like that was nuts!" This is what happened like 2 days ago. Unfortunately, they're not. They're only open for special events now.
Mhm.
But so I don't know. I wonder if the ghost, once things kick back into action, are going to be clamoring for guests and attention.
Yeah, they're gonna be like, look, we've missed you. Let's
Uh-huh.
play with your hair and mess with you, and
Bzzz. Yes.
um,
Yeah.
what was I gonna say? I was gonna ask you. I had a question that was based on something you were saying. I'm sorry.
Oh, I don't know.
I'll think of it. It'll come to me.
Well, I'm Doppler, but yeah, but the boathouse is that is one of the places the most active for us. I mean, in terms of like whenever people come on a tour and they've had their first paranormal experience in their life. It's been
On one of the
there.
tours.
Yeah, I've actually had things happen while I've been in the middle of storytelling there. It's it so whenever you talk about, I mean, Mansfield Reformatory, the old Licking County, old Newark jail, there are lots of these places that get pretty heavy activity or reports of activity, but people are investigating them nonstop. The place that gets the most activity per capita without people trying to find ghosts, I would say, is the boathouse. Where it's just someone's walking down a hallway, uh, having a salad at a wedding or a banquet for their coworkers, and something happens to them.
And this place doesn't really push this reputation,
No, no,
not at all. Like when
no,
we
they
went there,
don't.
I was super surprised. I'm like, what are we
Mhm.
doing here? Like, this is weird. I mean, because yeah, it's a wedding venue. It is a new build. It's a very beautiful place, and it doesn't come off as creepy or ghost filled or anything like that. And they
Not
definitely
not
make a scene about
initially.
it.
Not
Yeah.
initially. I think once you start hearing the stories, I mean, it is a lot of our guests, whenever we can do the bus tours, it's their favorite stop because it kind of harkens to like Freud's notion of the uncanny, where it's something that's so normal, but not
Yeah.
exactly normal. And that's what unsettles people so much. I think, that it's got that little bit of oddness, but familiarity at the same time.
Yeah, it definitely has the most deceiving face when it comes to all the places that we went,
Mm,
because most of the places look like Char Bar looks like when
mm,
you go in the basement, it looks like there should be something spooky happening there, and the ringside, because we got to go downstairs there too and
mhm,
talk about the secret entryways and to the state
mm.
building and all of that
Yeah,
was fascinating to me.
yeah.
Yeah, but going to the boathouse was just like a huh, but for that to be the one that is
That shocks people. Yeah,
uh
the one that people leave upset.
yeah, Bridget here
Yeah.
says that, that's where my first experience was, at the
Hmm.
boathouse with Bucky on tour.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
We got people like, "Preach." Yeah, that
Yes, we
was
do.
it
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. There was a whenever we first started, one thing that really started, I became shocked at how many people were traveling to attend our tours. Coming to Columbus, I'm like, "Oh, you're here for the zoo, or are you here for that?" And they're like, "No, we're here for your tour." And that blew me away, you know. But there was early on, there was a couple from Detroit, I believe, which. If you're watching, hi, I apologize, but we can't remember. It was a long time ago, and I've had lots of wine. Um, but they were coming for their honeymoon, and she was a really big exponent of the paranormal. She was a believer. She loves this stuff, and he was a complete skeptic and never had an experience. They just got married. They came down here, uh, went on our tour, and when they were in the boathouse with me, there are a number of different types of hauntings there, and there's sort of a story arc that I go on whenever we visit that place and lay things out in a certain fashion. And at one point, we were in the large Buckeye dining room, and the husband and wife heard this child giggling in a corner of the room, and they looked, and it was a fake one. You know, uh, there was no one else there, and it's after that that I would reveal the stories about how the children are the most active hauntings there, and they were like, "Oh, we just had this experience," and it was a husband's very first time experiencing the paranormal. And Bridget, yes, Bridget has had experiences. I've got countless people that have sent videos, recorded things there. The very first tour we ever did, when it was just friends and it was just going to be a group or so of us, it was visiting there. Then afterwards, we visited the old Pioneer Cemetery, which is just across the bridge. And afterwards, we went back to a bar and we were reviewing the footage from the night. Of friend Julie had a nice camera, and she shot a bunch of photos and saw this orb activity and the cemetery, and she noticed that there was this little child kind of like image standing behind me next to one of the tombstones. And that was something where it's like I not yet talked about the children, and then the next stop was going to be about the children, but yet one appeared there. I made my stops to the cemetery very quick after that for a while. And that was the first time I realized, going into doing tours, that this this was meant as a way to introduce people to local history and local businesses and make it entertaining and interesting through ghost stories. And that was the first one we did, and I was like, shit, this is not something to be treated
Right.
with irreverence. You have to give it respect, and it's there. I don't know what it is.
You're going into their place. You're going
Yeah,
into
yeah,
their area, and you're
yeah.
talking about them, and you're bringing interested parties to it. So it's almost like you're kind of inviting things to happen.
Yeah, it turned into like yeah. I learned that you're sharing their story. You're becoming a part of their narrative, and and you have to do this with respect, and you have to do it with with love and with reverence. And yeah, that's I initially was like, oh, ha ha ha, boo boo, whatever, but it's not like that anymore for me. It's it's sharing people's stories, and I do these tours of Green Lawn Cemetery now, and I'm kind of a living tombstone for a lot of these people who they have no marker. Their story is
Oh,
completely erased, and that's what this experience is kind of turned into for me. Sharing people's stories that are lost,
Hmm.
and gone, and they're only surfacing in weird, creepy moments for people who have no idea about the history. And then I'm like, actually, what just happened to you is related to a historical event, and this is a person, and this is what happened to them. It's the classic crisis ghost,
Hmm.
experience.
So, what I know that you are always researching, I know that you're always expanding your knowledge. What are you working on now?
Well, I'm actually a lot right now. There's I can't wait to share this with you whenever it's ready, Tiffany, because I
Oh,
know
yeah.
you're going to love it. But there's a satanic sock puppet in the works. So, we'll
You
that's
combine so many things I love.
I know.
So,
Socks and puppets. But yeah, so that there's something going on with that, which is fun. It's been taking a little longer than it should have to develop, but it should be close to a reveal. And I'm writing a book right now, as well, for the History Press on uh, haunted cemeteries. So
that's
that's
very exciting.
yeah, it's fun. It's going to give me a purpose over the winter whenever things are slow.
But you guys do tours all year round, correct?
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, it's there's and this is your busy time, I'm sure now, and next month
Hmm.
is crazy for you.
Yes, it's been pretty much nonstop at this time. It's a spinning plate act
Hmm.
right now. Yeah.
You're not doing all the tours yourself anymore. Is that correct? Like you actually have other tour guides now, right?
Yeah, yeah, we are expanding. There's so much happening, and there's a lot of um different things, like avenues I'm trying to go down, and just don't have the time to do it all. It's Martin and myself, and he usually deals. My business partner deals with the business end of things, but uh, at this point, like, it's all hands on deck. We brought on a couple other people, Cynthia, who helped with the seance in
Hmm.
2017, I think.
2016. Yes.
2016.
Cynthia
Okay, yes, yeah,
Westover. She actually
yes,
took the picture that Abigail used to make a post about us today, about you.
yes, yeah,
That
yes,
picture of
yeah,
you where you're all
yes,
creepy, and I love
yeah,
that picture.
yeah.
Um,
I was like, I'm going to be Houdini for a minute. um, yeah,
so yeah,
yeah.
so Cynthia is doing them, and she's
She
wonderful.
she's an
I love
amazing
her.
tour. She's an amazing tour guide. She's an amazing human being, and we're so lucky to have her. She's developed a children's tour for us at Green Lawn for people that have young kids who want to be able to do a something creepy but not too creepy, because my
You did kids level ghost tours.
well, I've done a lot of stuff because with schools, because this is history laden, and so
Mhm.
it is educational. But I also have I'm desensitized, and I might not find any issue just like turning to a 7-year-old and being like, oh yeah, somebody cut their head off and bled all over that spot where you're sitting right now. And um we need
So
we
you've
need
given that to Cynthia.
yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, I'm sure she's very,
She,
very
she
good to the children.
yeah, she is. She was a principal of an old haunted school. So
Right, I
yes,
forgot about that.
yeah. So she understands the child's psyche much more than
Yeah. She probably knows not to scar them for life about the headaches.
yeah. I have yeah, I have a lot of parents that approach me about some of our tours that have age limits. They're like, yeah, my kid's cool. And I'll tell them, well, at one point we address on that evening a person who can only ejaculate whenever they're stabbing a knife into the flesh of someone and causing them to bleed. And that usually
There's a
stop.
reason for the age limit. Yeah,
Yeah,
like
there,
there's a reason you
yeah,
don't want to get your kid on
yeah,
this
yeah.
tour.
Hmm. And so it's nice to have Cynthia spearhead this thing where
Going back to the ejaculation thing. Sorry, just picturing that.
we
Um,
all do. We all do.
so Jonda has a question for you. She wants to know, do you ever give offerings to spirits during tours, whether they be items or just saying something meaningful?
Well, yeah, John, you know what? As I said, like when we started these tours, I was like, oh, ha, 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 this will be an interesting way to tell stories to people. And now we have a different view of things and the subject matter that we uh, address. And at all moments on our tours, um, I ask people to come and visit, like in the cemeteries. Sometimes I ask people, like, come here for a second, pay respects to this person. Take a second to do that. So the offerings are of love. And we're not, it's not Zach Baggins and his fucking uh faux hawk like screaming at
You're
someone
not
trying
blowing
to,
it up.
you're a demon, you're a demon, 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 demon. We're more we're approaching these things with from a space of love. But I also, I mean, it's a ghost tour. I know you want to be creeped out, and the stories are creepy. So but we do thank you for that question.
And I think that you honor them by sharing their stories, by
Yes.
continuing to bring real, awareness to, something that may have happened. And, I think that in itself is an offering.
Yeah, well, that's
You
true.
know, in another way.
I mean, I particularly like our now we have COVID has kind of forced us to um, come up with some inventive ideas as any small business owner, yourself included, well, this wouldn't have probably be happening right now if it weren't for that,
It
right?
wouldn't. It would
No.
absolutely wouldn't. I would
Yeah.
never have gone digital if I didn't have to.
Yeah. Like, so, uh, I, I developed these. We already had a downtown walking tour that was just an occasional thing, and
Right.
it was a good idea. But for the most part, we like to take people on bus tours and take them into the basements and back rooms, and you're in the kitchens of these restaurants and bars, and you don't have a mask on, and you're drinking, and there's droplets everywhere, and while people are preparing food, and that obviously can't happen. So the walking tours became the focus, and I was fortunate enough to be given the permission by Greenlawn Cemetery. Randy Rogers, the director, uh, allowed me to. I wrote him a very impassioned email, like, I am a small business owner who is suddenly like struggling to survive, and I came up with this idea of giving people kind of a virtual tour of downtown Columbus by going through the cemetery and visiting the graves of these various people who were said to haunt the city. And it's something I'd already been doing before COVID. Anytime I would tell someone's ghost story before, when I would research it, I would always go and visit their grave and just pay my respect to them. And
Oh, that's lovely. I didn't know you did that. That's
yeah,
wonderful.
yeah. I mean, it's kind of one of those things. Is like, I don't give any
Right.
money to Dolly
Right.
Parton's literacy initiative. Sure, no, no, nobody needs to know about that. But it's just sort of a private thing I did, and it was something that I felt was important for me to do. And
So you didn't feel like you were just exploiting them.
yes, yeah, well, yeah, absolutely, yeah. That's why I was like,
To
I
give
would
back to
I
share
would go and spend a moment at these people's graves and be like, I am here for you.
Mhm.
I'm telling your story, and I'm trying to keep it alive. And so I would do that. And then whenever COVID hit, I was like, well, this just makes sense. Like, this is a way, bring everybody to these people's graves and tell their stories. And and at the same time, cemeteries are they're open air art museums, they're open air history museums, and they're
Yeah.
the very safe places for folks to be during a pandemic. And the really beautiful ones were created out of a pandemic because we had too many bodies in the population center, so it all fit. And I started doing that, and the daytime tours at Greenlawn Cemetery are, visiting the markers and talking about tombstone symbolism and those sorts of things. And I invented this. Well, I didn't invent, but I sort of push for this graveyard bingo
Oh,
thing. I don't know.
yes.
Yeah, if you can see we
Yes.
have these little graveyard bingo boards that you can go find a poppy, a weeping willow, that sort of thing on the tombstone, so people could play these games, and it would encourage them to go out into the cemeteries during the pandemic and have a safe activity with their friends. But the night tours of Greenlawn, and that's where I was kind of headed with this long, sort of winding narrative.
So you need to get permission to go in there because it closes at 5,
Yes,
right?
yeah, we are. They actually asked us if we would like to do this. So, is a blessing that that they offered us the opportunity to do night tours at the cemetery, the first time in 174 years. Now, it was 173 years when we started doing it. They allow the people to bring the public in after dark for these tours, and those tours, because it's dark, I can't really talk about tombstones and that sort of thing, is not
Yeah,
that
people
big of a
can't see
deal.
an example.
So, and I also knew that people that were going to be wanting a tour of a cemetery after dark probably wanted the splashier, stories.
Tell us about the ejaculation with the knife thing, guy.
Yes, exactly. So I was like, well, this is a good opportunity to talk about all these people who died horrific, violent deaths, suicides, that sort of thing, who are buried without a marker, and their stories are gone. They're gone. They're nowhere. You're not gonna. They're not in books. They're not in the papers. They're not in the sphere of just urban folklore. These are stories that I use the pandemic to do research and dig up these lost lives, and they all happen to be related. They have a ghost story behind them,
Mhm.
and I set up yeah this tour. So that's a pretty I feel like a steward of these people's history, because it isn't there otherwise. So
I'm so glad you're writing a book. I mean,
thank you.
because I want to be able to access it all. I literally want you to just sit here and tell me all the stories, but you know, you can only do that so many times. Misty, her question is, I'm disabled and can't go on a tour, but would you ever consider doing virtual tours via Facebook or YouTube? And that's kind of what you were talking about, right? Like you're doing, because I know you post those things on Instagram and Facebook where
Mhm.
it's like you and the cemetery telling an entire story.
Yeah, and also on YouTube, yeah, I do really short ones. And Misty, you know, I would absolutely love to do that. We uh, a lot of the places we go to in terms of bars and restaurants and stuff, they're old. They're not accessible for anyone that has issues in terms of mobility. But I will 100% do that. And I will, yeah. If you just contact us at our Facebook or Instagram or
Which is booze and booze.
Booze and Booze or ColumbusGhostTours.com, you can send a message to us on there and let us know. Now, I might not be able to do it at this moment. I apologize, because I am a bit overwhelmed right now, but I will 100% do that for you.
She says that's awesome. Thank you.
Thank
Being a
you.
small business owner is hard because you have you have so many ideas and you only have so much time,
Hmm.
and it's hard to get to continue to do the regular work you have to do and to implement new things and to grow your business, and especially when an integral part of your business takes up so much of your time.
Yeah, we've talked about this before. Yeah, like a long time ago. Yeah,
Right.
it's a struggle
It
to
is.
set aside time for development, and when you also have to deal with operations, and then our tours, it's the majority of it is me out there on the streets talking to people, and then and say, oh, when can we do this, can you do that, is it possible? It does become a bit overwhelming at times, but I'm very fortunate, like Martin, my business partner, he's really good at taking the reins of a lot of this stuff, and Cynthia has been working on developing these children's tours and stuff, and we've got some other people that we were bringing on board, at which it's really exciting. And I've had quite a few people actually contact us over the past couple weeks about uh, employment opportunities, which is great, but
Wow.
it's kind of we're at a time where right now I can't take on training and that sort of thing.
That's another
So
thing, right? Like you have to
yeah.
actually take, that's another chunk of time.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, since I'm currently like right now, my book is pretty much the main focus. Just get that done quick and get it out there, and
How
I'm
long before we see that?
well, hopefully it'll be in before, well, it's definitely going to be before Halloween of next year. Um, my writing has been going a lot quicker than I anticipated, but I'm also about to be in the throes of the holidays, so
Yeah.
I extended my deadline just to anticipate that. But it, it's I've fallen into the whole author thing pretty easily, so hopefully I will be
Yeah,
able to knock
yeah,
it out and get another one.
that makes sense to me. Just because, after I've heard you speak numerous times, I've heard you give many tours, I've heard you do fireside storytelling and things, and it all does seem to come very naturally to you. So I
Hmm.
can see that it would be like a natural thing. It's funny, all of your stuff you've kind of like just naturally, it's become the next step.
Yeah.
And it's I I am not surprised at all that your business has grown the way that it has, because you offer something that people really want. I mean, people love haunted tours. They love ghost
Yeah.
tours, and we cannot get enough of them.
Hmm.
And you are the one who's putting all of this love and energy and dedication to your product. Your product
Yeah.
is you telling us cool shit.
Yeah. Well, and I'm
And
doing it organically. I mean, that's
yeah.
that is the thing. Yeah, it's not like there are a lot of tour companies that have popped up here in Columbus, and in all these different cities where it's just kind of this calculated money. Oh, we almost had a Bumble sighting. Bumble is the little gray ghost that haunts our house now. Which, if he comes back in, I would love to introduce you to him.
Really?
Yes, well, he's a kitten, but
That's
he's
adorable.
he's pretty fantastic. He just zipped in and out.
That's
But
adorable.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's our tours. It did all happen organically, and I've been very fortunate that it's just kind of something that fell into my lap, and I happen to be sorry,
Okay.
I happen to be well suited for it. Like this is I was kind of born for this stuff.
I couldn't agree more. I've always been a fan of ghost tours and yours, and just the way that you presented it. I mean, we became friends the day that I met you. The day I went on that tour, I was
Yes,
just like, oh, I need to know you.
yeah.
I need you in my life.
Oh, it was such a wonderful night. Yeah, after the tour, I took off that suit and sat down with you at the back of the char bar at the patio. Yep, I remember it very
Yep,
well.
yep, yeah. Oh man. Yeah, Yeah, and I feel like it's so we have worked on so many projects together.
Hmm.
You've done 3 seances with me.
Yeah, I think
Three?
it, well, I did 2 seances. I did the
You did.
Satanic Cocktail Party,
Yep.
and I did the oh no, I had 3 seances.
I thought
Yes,
so because it was a
yeah,
Christmas
the
one,
the
isn't
the
it?
Christmas one. Yes, yeah, that was the one that one I think it might have been Lynn Lee. If she's here, she's watching. I don't know. I remember um, causing someone to shudder when I was telling a story, and physically seeing that when I was storytelling, and I was just like, oh my god, that's amazing. That was so yeah.
So
So
that's a big part of being in front of people is the reactions that you get, the connections that you make when you say things and you can see their
mhm,
faces, and that's why virtual stuff is so tough. Is like
yeah.
if you're just talking to basically you and
Mm,
not getting that feedback, that either looks of surprise or laughter or
mm,
the stuff that makes you realize that you're connecting and affecting people. And I feel like that's such a big rewarding part of it that it's got to be tough to switch that over to doing like just like the little videos stuff that you do and stuff like that where
yeah.
you're not getting
Yeah, it is.
that
You know,
feedback.
yeah. I mean, I think a lot of times people you need that reaction, but I also at the same time, uh, people in the paranormal community by nature can be a little odd, and there
We're
have
a bunch
been
of weirdos, mister.
that's right, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Same.
But there are tours where I've done tours and people were just um, extremely socially awkward, and they're removed, and they're non-reactive, and
Mhm.
they seem upset even or bored, and then at the end of it they're just like, oh my god, that was amazing, that was amazing. So i, initially it took me a bit to understand that sometimes you're not getting that interaction that you need because you do like as a performer of any sort, like storytelling, these are storytelling events, and it's a performance. It really is. My tours are not scripted at all. They're not scripted. I going into my 10th year, I'm extremely polished and how I might deliver some of these tales so they could possibly seem that way, but they're not. And what I give out is very much in proportion to what I receive in terms of interest and that sort of thing. And it's yeah, it's difficult sometimes when people are just sort of like stone faced,
Yeah,
but I now know that that doesn't mean they're bored. That doesn't mean they
that
hate
doesn't
it.
mean that they're not
And
engaged.
and
Yeah.
I've gotten to the point where my I'm not trying to be like uh arrogant or anything, but I think fuck them. If you don't like it, what are you gonna do? I'm sorry.
You're doing
You
the
know,
best you can, and if
yeah.
it's if they're
I'm
if they're
telling a
not
story.
enjoying it, then maybe I don't
And
know.
people pretty much for the most part do.
Yeah.
I just I don't know. It's yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, I think that because of what you do is such a specialized thing that you have an audience that really is leaning towards wanting to hear what you have to say. They've come here
Mm,
for that, but sometimes you do get people who are like it's. I mean, Witch Lab is a very specific kind of a store, right?
mm-hmm,
Like it's very specific. Like you know that if you're going to go there for like dark witchy type stuff,
mm,
and every once in a while we get someone who's like, nope, nope,
yep.
I don't like this. Like,
I thought there was going to be cupcakes. I don't know what they.
like I don't know what
Yeah,
you were expecting, but
I've only, I've only ever really had, to my knowledge, one very adverse reaction to our tour. As you're like, is it Natalie? There was a woman.
Natalie's the new like Karen name for
Mm,
religious zealots, evidently.
Natalie.
Oh, she's a
Uh,
young Natalie.
mm, who brought the Natalie?
Sucks because I fucking love that name. Natalie's one of my favorite names ever. It's like my first doll was named Natalie, and so it's kind of bother. It's kind of tainted now. Like it's,
Trouble me, 10,000 Maniacs, that sort of, yeah. Um, the one time that we got, like, I'm fairly fortunate to get consistently positive reviews, but we do the Moonlight Market, which I think the next one, if I can plug my thing, is like the
and what do? You like set up a booth and have information and you can
yeah,
get tours there
yeah, our
too?
T-shirts and stuff like that. It's
Okay,
October
okay.
9th, but those are on Gay Street, and the Christian Science reading room is right around the corner. And a couple
Oh,
years ago, we were placed right next to the Christian Science reading room, and this woman signed up for a tour, and it was her and her child, and her. And whenever I was sending her an informational email, it was like, worship the Lord Jesus forever. His kingdom was wrought into the world .019@gmail.com or something. And so I was like, why is she coming on to a ghost tour? She's probably not going to enjoy this. And she didn't. She left like a few minutes in, saying that
oh
we
wow.
were completely like, I've never been on a tour that's been so uh, removed from history and zero stars, but she left it on square, so like, saw but it was a bit I don't know, it is interesting. These things can be very specific. You get people, and unfortunately, for the most part, the majority of people that come on our tours are interested in it.
Were you
And
wearing the Satan suit when she was there?
no. I
Light
no, I don't wear the devil costume on the downtown tours. I don't wear them. I don't wear it hardly ever anymore, unless by special request. Which, didn't somebody ask if I put that
yeah,
on?
yeah. Somebody was oh gosh, who was it? They were talking on the Facebook page. Who was it? Anyway, somebody was like they should wear their suits.
Should I do that?
Yeah, I said that. um yes. Last
It'll
time I saw you wear that suit was when you were singing with Jason at the cocktail party and you guys were singing Satan you, Satan me.
That's right.
Amazing. Are you gonna
um,
put it on?
it's going to take a second.
Okay. I'm fine with that.
I hope everyone enjoys this.
I realized that while he's doing that, I'd skipped over some questions because I didn't see them, but we're gonna get to them in just a minute, and he's gonna answer them in costume. So, I mean, it'll be worth the wait. So just stick with us for a minute. Oh my god. Oh, I love the devil costume. Everything is on.
Now, okay. I might not have. I don't know if this is actually going to. How's this?
That is lovely. That is wonderful. I'm so happy. Okay, well, I promised them that I would ask you these questions so that you could answer questions in the garb.
Go on.
I love that your persona changes. Jean asks, how should one, especially a newbie, go about preparing magically for a ghost tour?
Well, I would suggest that you build up a barrier, a wall around you, because you never know what you might bring home. Salt usually is the best.
Salt's good.
Salt,
I like the bubble technique, creating
yeah,
a
yeah.
barrier around yourself.
I personally, hey Gene, what I do, and this in all seriousness, when I started doing these tours and started doing research on this stuff, there's this whole idea that once you focus on these things, you draw attention to yourself from the other side. And I had an enormous amount of paranormal experiences happening in my home. Incredibly creepy and unexplained things. There was like a footprint on the ceiling of my deck out back. I had a remote control car go rushing across the room one day when I was home alone. It had been sitting in the corner for 2 years. The batteries were dead. I had one day I got out of the shower and my towel was soaked as if someone had dunked it in the toilet or something. I was the only person there. And I was like, okay, I probably should figure out a way to prepare magically for being a ghost tour guide, as your question. And how I ended up going about that was quite honestly, very seriously, denial. I would put my fingers in my ears and I would put on the Golden Girls at the end of a tour, and I would just watch and I would laugh and I would fill my mind and my spirit with positivity and humor, and ignore that energy. And that was starting these tours, and I think that was because it was unexpected, and I wasn't prepared for it, and I wasn't comfortable with addressing those things. And now I can take these things and I can kind of push them in a little bit more positive manner and see where stuff needs to go. But yeah, that's kind of how it started for me. So yeah, if worse comes to worse, Hulu, Golden Girls.
I love that. I love that idea. I love the the idea of just breaking the concentration or the connection with the energy and just being like, I'm not taking it home with me. I'm not gonna continue to
well, it would come home with me and I'd be like, I'm not doing this. I push it away, and I would just I would flood my my mind with positive thoughts, and that's how I would go about it.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of takes this off now.
I guess.
I don't know. I have other things.
I love it. It's so cute.
I could. This is actually a really cool thing that I've never shown anyone. My friend Julie got me years ago. It's these glasses, and they look just like glasses, But what's cool about them is you can fold them up.
Oh my god!
And they become a skull.
That's adorable.
Yeah, they're pretty cool, aren't they?
I love your props. I love that you have so many props just within range.
Oh, it's the house is filled with them. But anyway,
so thinking about ways to protect yourself. For people who are magical, like doing the grounding and grounding, centering, and bubbling, that kind of thing. When we did the Christmas seance, we actually had amulets made. Like we did little spell bottles that Al Rook, he's actually a protection magic. That's what he specializes in. And so he actually made these for us. So we had one for every person who attended. And that I love those. I still have a couple left, and I've given them to people.
I have mine still. I still have mine. Yeah, it's in one of these drawers. It actually is.
I think that doing things like that are helpful. Carrying certain herbs with you can be helpful. But I love the idea, because there's something about doing serious magic too, where one of the ways that you break it when you're done is laughter. Go watch a comedy. Go.
Yep.
Do something that makes you feel lighthearted.
Yeah.
And not so deep. Right?
Yeah.
Let it go.
Yeah. And I mean, I've always been since I was a child, I would have experiences with the paranormal and senses of something, and I learned early on to you know what, you've got to you have to go on the offense with those sorts of things sometimes. And strangely enough, I don't normally have those experiences so much anymore, but recently I had one where I was drifting off to sleep, and it was silhouettes of people with a deep blue lighted background. Strange. It was strange, but yeah, I don't normally have those experiences, but when I do, yeah, laughter is the best thing, I'd say.
I agree. Yeah, just like it chases it away or it shuts it down. It really just
Mm,
makes it so it's not quite so heavy.
yeah, we're just like, we're not doing that.
Yeah, I'm just not doing that.
Mm.
Somebody had asked about, can we purchase graveyard bingo boards to play on our own, maybe for sale at WitchLab? But you had posted them. You actually had like a little contest going, didn't you? Where did anybody?
Well, it started as a contest. Yeah, yeah, it did. It started as a contest, and then last winter, it, how it became was some people, some friends were they just moved to Westerville, and they were lockdown had just happened, and I told everyone go out and visit cemeteries. It's the
Mhm.
safest place to be, and some friends were like, we're listening to your advice. We're going to a cemetery. They just bought this house in Westerville, and I went to Otterbein. My family and part helped found Otterbein College, and I'm
Really?
very familiar, yeah,
Wow.
with the layout there. And I was like, I want you to find this gravestone, that gravestone, blah blah blah. And they were like, "This was amazing. You gave us a purpose during the middle of shutdown, whenever everyone was afraid to do anything." And they were begging for more, and I just started giving all these people things, and then I was like, "Graveyard bingo. That's what we're going to do." And it is the concept existed before this, but we kind of set up rules, and it was originally just sort of a fun thing for people. But then as winter was approaching, we really like to give back to the community as much as possible, and um, I thought a lot of people would probably be losing their jobs. Children would be having really difficult winter holidays. So we started selling the graveyard bingo cards as a fundraiser for Toys for Tots last holiday season. And it was like 90% of the proceeds. We just took enough out for processing, went to Toys for Tots, and then we donated an extra couple $100. And yeah, so that's what we did in the past. I think going forward, we're going to be producing our actual own physical graveyard bingo cards for people. Rivka, yes. So we'll be producing those, and we are going to continue to make it a, a benevolent thing. And what
So
you,
people can look for them to be reissued, and then so you'll
yes,
probably announce that on your Facebook page
yeah.
and
Well,
let
I think
everybody know.
we're hopefully going to have those for the Moonlight Market on Gay
Oh,
Street on October. Is it
ninth? I
ninth?
think it's
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. On the ninth. Yeah. We're going to try to have those available physically. And we'll also be releasing digital copies, which you can just, you download it and you print it out, which is not the same. We'll have the actual physical ones you can dry erase, and so you can check things off as you find them. And those are going to go, the proceeds will be going towards some sort of benevolent, probably children's organization or cemeteries. I don't know. I haven't decided yet this year. We definitely need to send some money to who in
right.
Texas, and
Oh my gosh,
yes,
right?
so yeah, so we're going to be coming up with a fundraiser for that as well.
Good. That's awesome. So yeah,
Hmm.
so they will be available. You can get them. Just keep an eye out on Booze and Booze social media stuff.
Hmm.
And Jason says, where is it? Jason was saying that you should seriously consider doing an interview show in devil character on YouTube, because that voice is really great. It's really
Well,
nice.
let's see if I can find it. Okay.
Yes,
Um,
laughter is like sound cleansing. Absolutely, laughter is
does
definitely a cleansing thing. So
I could? Oh, I look a little odd if it goes around over the
it
headphones,
it
but
doesn't look odd at all. Actually, it looks fine.
I can hear you much better now.
Good.
It's
Oh, good. Look at that. We've fixed things.
uh-huh.
Okay. Jonda has another question. In your 10 years of operation, have you seen a location become a haunted location where there was previously no spirit activity?
Well, No, I guess I mean, there are so many places I think that have been reputed as haunted that we visit. Very rarely would we visit some place that doesn't have a reputation for being haunted, and then hear ghost stories come about. But
Yeah, it's almost like something new would have to happen. Like suddenly, this place next door is haunted, and we
I
don't know
mean,
why it went there.
I get news stories from places all the time, but it's not something like where was someplace we visit. I mean, like things. Yeah, I mean,
Right, it
there's
wouldn't have been on the tour if there was no
yeah,
first place.
but there is constant. I mean, yeah, there's new activity popping up at places all the time, and sometimes there are locations that are old and they have a history of violent activity or tragedy or just a very important historical context with Columbus history. And sometimes there are places that you wouldn't think. I mean, I I had a friend a few years ago tell me that he'd gone on a road trip with a girlfriend of his, and he was a skeptic. And on the road trip, she was telling him about how she was having all these experiences uh, in her condo, and it was a very new build. And when he came back from this road trip with her, and he asked me if I knew any history of the area. And I just recently found an app, Z Maps, where you could look up the ancient burial mounds uh, across Ohio, and we looked, and it was right on the site of her condo, and she had a older she had an older parent that was living with her, and there was a nursing home across the street, and her older her mother was seeing these deceased nursing home patients. They were coming and they were knocking on the door like they were lost. They were wondering where they needed to be and where they needed to go and all that stuff. And he was like, yeah, my friend is seeing this stuff. Like, you know anything about this location? And he gave me the address, and I looked it up on this map. And I was like, it happens to be exactly where this ancient burial mound was. Not that the indigenous Ohioans would have any investment in creating nursing home ghosts, but what was going on. So make of that what you will.
And I think that those places, that those kind of things with that kind of history, and I mean that definitely deal around death, right?
Hmm.
Because burial mounds were where they would bury their people
There,
these
yeah, there were
days.
mortuary,
Yeah, and
structures.
so I think that just having them there is like a cemetery, right? It's the
Hmm.
same sort of thing where you're dealing with the burial of dead, and
Yeah, yeah, which that's I mean,
which brings you to the afterlife.
uh-huh, yes. And whenever I was approached about writing a book about the haunted cemeteries of Ohio, I was like, well, basically the whole state's a cemetery, so everything's a game. So.
So let's talk about the cemetery, the criminally insane cemetery. Is that what it is? It's
Hmm.
the I've been there. That
There,
place is
three.
so scary. Do you
Uh-huh.
do tours there?
No, no, we don't do tours there. Um, there are three cemeteries for the old Ohio State Mental Hospital and the prison.
Hmm.
Um, and there are others in that area. There's the Feeble Minded Cemetery on Hilltop, for the Feeble Minded Institute, which is where teenagers who weren't right in the mind would be placed. We don't do tours at those locations.
Okay.
They those stops. If you've ever been to see the specimen grave, yeah, have you
That's the one
been?
behind the police heliport.
The helipad, yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
yeah, the helipad. Yeah, so it's where the Columbus police helicopters are. So
Yeah,
yeah, that's
anytime you head down there, all of a sudden patrol cars pop up out of nowhere, and you're allowed to be there, but it's not encouraged. And
I've been there once, and it didn't. There nobody showed up. We just walked
really,
around. We saw all the specimen. tombstones, headstones, and
Those
then we
are
went to the scarier one. Then we went to the other one is like you have to park your car on
Harper
a
and
dirt
Walk.
road, and then you have to like walk to it.
Uh-huh.
And when you get there, like you just see the sign that's like, you know, cemetery for the was it
Penal,
penal
insane and
and
penal. Yeah.
insane. Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
very clear what it is. And you're like, whoa. And then
That yeah. That one's an entirely different story. It is. It's very removed. And there's um last time I was there was someone had dumped trash on the road, so you couldn't even
oh, gross.
pass all the way. Like they like dumped trash halfway up, so you couldn't traverse it. It is a little bit creepier, isn't it?
When I went, the grass was so high that it was
Uh,
covering most of even the tall tombstones. And so you'd be walking and suddenly you're on one. And you're like,
yeah,
whoa, because you're like walking through the tall
yeah.
grass and you can't even see where they are.
I was there last year, yeah, and, to do a story about one of the women that died at the original lunatic asylum is buried there at the 1868 fire, and I went on the anniversary of the fire to visit her grave, and yeah, that's when the grass was high, and it just gave you that eerie vibe, and because it's all moving around, you can barely see the
Mhm.
tombstones peeking
Yeah.
through the high grass, and um, yeah, and a lot of those tombstones, well, the ones that are laid out in linear fashion are for the penitentiary. So there were also probably inmates from the prison fire of 1930 buried there. I think there are supposed to be quite a few, but a lot of those tombstones are handmade by inmates, which is they're very unique. For right now, there's been a huge interest in uh, cemeteries with the pandemic, like that whole I've been telling people like get out there, and people have been listening, and apparently a lot of people have had the same idea, and there's a lot of interest in cemetery preservation and that sort of thing going on right now, and those are and cemetery photography, tombstone photography, those are extremely unique because they were constructed and carved by inmates for their fellow uh, convicts. They're
That's incredible.
cellmates. Yeah, and they're cool, but it is creepy. And one thing I have an issue with that one is it was originally designed to have two circular sections,
Okay.
and then a bunch of linear uh, graves, and a lot of people in Ohio are familiar with the ridges. If you're into ghost stories in Athens, Ohio, the ridges is one of the largest still existent in Ohio Kirkbride mental hospitals. And
Okay.
it's on the hilltop overlooking Athens, which is what Columbus, we used to have one there. Same thing. And there are a bunch of cemeteries behind it, and right behind the mental health facility, which is now like there's an art museum there, and there's also a genetics lab, which not asking for trouble, by putting this genetic engineering lab in this 1860s insane asylum. But there's a cemetery behind it, and there was a circle of graves there, and the story was for years that some pranksters had pulled up these stones and placed them in a circle, and that witches would gather in the circle and use that to power their rituals. And in 2010, America's Scariest Places on Fox TV had an episode on Athens, Ohio, and the North American Mental Illness Alliance was like, "Oh no, enough! This is enough!" And they pulled up all these circular stones and just placed them in
Oh,
a little square, saying, "Eh, that was just done to, we're trying to demystify and make this place not spooky at all." But
hmm.
actually, I think these cemeteries were designed with these circular burials. So,
Really? Okay.
yeah, so they just kind of pulled them up to get rid of the whole ghostly aspect of it. Well, um, they thought that it was done as a prank. It was probably the actual sites of these people's burials that they disrupted. So now who's the, um, you know, bad guy?
Who's the jerk now?
Yeah.
So did they move the bodies?
No.
Just move the markers.
Hmm.
Hmm. Well,
We've
so
all
and
seen
that's how the penitentiary one was laid out originally. Is that what you were
the
saying? Like,
the penitentiary. Yes, the one on
you know,
McKinley and Harper. Yeah,
yeah.
it had two circular sites for the patients from the insane asylum. It was supposed to be male circle and a female circle, and then
Oh, okay.
a bunch of linear graves for the prison inmates. And
Interesting that they
yeah,
all had different layouts.
yeah. Well, it is very interesting because normally in Christian burial, you would always have the east facing graves, so people could hear Gabriel's trumpet and wake up and climb right out and straight through the pearly gates. But um, these asylum burials they did in circles, and yeah, and in Athens they were like, no, that was just some witches or whatever. So they pulled them up and put them in lines, but in actuality, people were probably buried in the circle. So
Because they were just trying to make it less mystical.
yes.
They didn't want people visiting it for the wrong reasons. Is that the
Yes.
whole
Yeah.
thing?
Yeah. Yeah. It was yeah, it was like I said, it was after this Fox's America's Fox Family TV show in 2000 had this America's Scariest Places, and they did a whole episode on Athens, and they mentioned these circular graves, and that's when the NAMI, the North American Mental Illness Alliance, decided they had to get rid of that stigma. So they pulled up all the stones and just put them in a tiny little clump. and, 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 and saying like, and the idea, people did believe for years and years and years that this was a practical joke that people done over a century ago. But there have
What
been,
a weird thing to think that that's why it was that way, because somebody was kidding.
mm-hmm. Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
lot of work to move it.
Yeah, like why would someone like sneak into a cemetery, dig up a bunch of, I know what we're going to do tonight,
And then
like
the thought was that that it was that it was vandalism and that it was
mm-hmm,
left
mm-hmm.
that way and not repaired or not fixed.
Yeah, yeah, it was like, like there's not a new Ziegfeld Follies to go watch, so let's move a bunch of tombstones tonight for a
Want to play
kick,
some more poltergeist? Because this is
Yeah,
how you get poltergeist.
yeah, yeah. Right, Chonda. Yeah. So they, yeah. So the North American Mental Illness Alliance just a few years ago dug these things up and put them in a clump.
And just move
Um,
them.
yeah, to get rid of the whole ghostly thing. So I say we push that narrative and say now it's even more ghosty.
Oh my
Yeah,
God, look what you did.
you fucked up.
Seriously, open portal of some sort. That's portal opening.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Metaphor.
Things were silent before, and
Did
now
you
they're
want a
not.
portal to hell? Because this is how you get a portal to hell. Right
Hmm.
here.
Yep. Yeah. So anyway, I mean, but yeah, at the that creepy cemetery on the city's west side that you're talking about. Yeah, there were supposed to originally be two circles of graves.
I find it fascinating that
Pause.
that their layout was different for where the bodies came from.
Yeah,
Later.
it is. It is really interesting, and like I've often like studying cemeteries. I've kind of delved into that whole thing, and occasionally, and like at Green Lawn and different places, you'll see these circular graves. And I found someone several years ago who said that very often the circular burials, because it was very important for people during early Christian times to be facing east so they could see Gabriel rise over the horizon and sound his trumpet. The only time they would bury people in circles would be to signify pioneers, and it would be like a wagon wheel.
Okay.
But so it would be pioneer families for the most part. But
Mhm.
obviously, that's not the case with the patients from the insane asylum, unless they're
Right.
pioneering patients. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I find that very interesting. Um, it's hard to tell because it when I was there, it was so overgrown. It's hard to tell any mapping at all of it because it was just kind of a big
I
mess.
I have a map. I can
Do
show you.
you?
I could show you a photo. I can send it maybe along, and we can, if there are show notes or anything, you can tack it on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. We can I can figure out a way to do it. I'll
Hmm.
just post it
Yep.
to WitchLab. Be like, this is the thing we talked about. Go watch the show. See what it's for.
Let me see if I can send it to you now. I don't know. It might take me a moment to find it, but yeah, those things. So that cemetery is really creepy, though.
It is.
I must say,
I
it
went there
gives
at
you.
night and it was very
Hmm.
very creepy. And I didn't know where I was going. Somebody was taking me like on a tour of things and I wasn't allowed to know where I was going. And then we're walking down this, dirt road and we come to an iron gate and that sign and I'm just like,
Uh huh.
"What? This is where we
Yeah.
are." It was
Yeah.
pretty cool.
It's a lot of people talk about seeing it off the interstate, and I'm like, how could you possibly see it off the interstate? I mean, the interstate passes right by it, but I've never physically, like, like been driving and like noticed the stones there. So
No, me neither.
uh,
I had no idea it was there. And
um
I didn't know that. So there's that little cemetery that was on one of the tours that I did with you. That's
hmm
right down the street from the shop from WitchLab.
yeah,
It's on Yale, right?
solder.
Sodders. Yeah, 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 yeah,
Solder and McKinley, that's the
yeah,
Pioneer Cemetery. Yeah.
yeah. That one is very cool, and it's got that like half stone wall that goes all the way around it.
Hmm.
That one is lovely, and it's
Yeah.
little, but it is hidden. You just don't even know
Well,
it's there.
it would have been much larger when in its original layout. It was the Pioneer Cemetery, so it was really big. That's where like all the movers and shakers were buried. Hubbard, Goodale, all the names that you would think of as the Sullivans
Hmm.
were buried there. But a lot of them were exhumed and moved to Greenlawn. So
Oh, okay,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. But there's a plaque in the back of that cemetery that has a where they did a ground penetrating radar
Oh,
and
really?
determined, yeah, there's a lot more left there than the stones would suggest. Yeah. So,
So,
uh-huh. While you're having a drink of water, is it okay if I pop out for a moment
yeah, yeah, yeah.
for a quick bathroom break?
I will entertain the troops while you're
Would you?
gone
Okay.
for a few minutes.
Do you want me to oh, I was going to say I have a little haunted village here.
Oh, you
Can you see
do?
that?
Yes. Oh, that
Um
is adorable.
yeah, this is yeah, there's the I think it's I forget whatever company it is, but they did these little haunted houses. So I have actually the uh Franklin Castle, which is right here from oops, from Cleveland, and this is a Trans Allegheny Lunatic Asylum, which I
So
uh,
these are reproductions of real places. This isn't just like
yeah,
a
yes,
little cutesy thing. This is just like these are
yeah. Here's
the haunted collection.
Here's the Amityville house, which I don't know you can see. There's even the little kid there. This is Lizzie Borden's.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh,
So
that's exciting.
yeah. Uh, so maybe I can talk about these haunted houses whenever I
Yeah,
get back from the restroom.
yeah.
Okay. All right. See you in a second. Bye.
Okay. All right. Well, Bucky's gonna take a break. I'm definitely trying to kill a mosquito that's been hassling me. So that's why I'm so like itchy. I'm like, where is it? I don't know where he is. He keeps like flying right here. One of these times, I'm just gonna smack him. Wow. I don't know what we're seeing there in Bucky's thing. It looks like a shelf or something. Okay, so this is God. His stories are so good. I'm going to try to actually get him to tell us some history about something. So if there's anything anybody wants to hear about, any specific cases, any areas that you are curious about, stuff like that, he is literally like an encyclopedia of interesting facts about places. Jason and I would go and bug him where he worked and just pump him for information all the time about like, well, what about this place and what about these things and what about this stuff. And Lizzie Borden's house was for sale last year, not the murder house, but the one she bought after. Oh, really? So the one place where she lived, where the murderess lived. Wow, that's neat.
Hi. Sorry,
Hi.
I'm back.
That's cool. That's excellent. Welcome back. So I was actually just asking the people watching if any of them wanted you to talk about any specific place in Columbus, if they had any particular cases or places that they wanted you to talk about. So I was going to wait and see if they pop up with anything. But yeah, Levesque Tower.
Oh, Levesque Tower. Okay. Yeah. Fun story about Levesque. Well, it's more so the palace there, but that was Howard Thurston's home theater during the final years of his life.
Thurston the Great.
Yes, Thurston the Great.
Our magician.
Yes, the last greatest magician on the planet. So yeah, so
since we're showing things, I want to show you. I got this the other day. It's been sitting in here this whole time. I got this new big Houdini poster.
Oh, that's amazing!
Isn't it amazing?
That's so cool.
Speaking of old magicians, but yeah. Anyway, so
wonderful.
Yeah, Thurston. He is actually in Greenlawn, yes.
He's in Greenlawn Abbey.
Oh, okay.
And he said to haunt it. Yeah, usually whenever I tell people about Thurston being the greatest magician in the world, they're like, what are you talking about? Houdini was the greatest magician, and Houdini was an escape artist. Actually, so you got to split that hair.
You're like, man.
Mm-hmm. But Houdini and Thurston were contemporaries. They met as teenagers in Chicago doing vaudeville and stage acts. And during their lives, Thurston was a much more famous person. There wasn't radio, there wasn't television, there wasn't, at least during the early years. And the greatest magician in the world was a household name. Everybody knew who they were. They had the biggest show. They had the best tricks, and they traveled the planet. And Thurston's home theater was the Palace during the last years of his life. He died in 1936. And in 1980, Harry Blackstone Jr. was doing a show at the Palace. They just remodeled, so he was their grand reopening thing, and it was in February of that year. And they were going to have this show, and Blackstone's father, Harry Blackstone Sr., had been a rival of Thurston's, so he thought that it would be a good publicity stunt if they had a seance before the show. And it was a private event. It was just Harry Blackstone Jr., a medium, Cindy Levesque, the woman who lived in the penthouse at the time and gave Levesque Tower its name, Levesque Tower. Before that, it was the Citadel, was there. And it was right inside the lobby of the Palace Theater. And they set up this table and they had a seance, and everyone joined hands. And as they're having the seance, the medium's face started to droop and her words started to slur. And everyone got really excited because Thurston had a stroke a couple weeks before he died. And they thought, hot damn, we've got Thurston on the line. But as the seance progressed, this thing that was speaking through the medium started saying some very un-Thurston-like stuff. Like, it kept complaining about being murdered in the theater, and there is no evidence of anyone ever having been murdered there. And people were getting a little uncomfortable. And then it started doing something else. It started divulging very private details about the lives of the people sitting around the table. These were Columbus dignitaries, and it was like, Cindy, I saw what you did in that dorm room whenever you were a freshman, with
Holy.
Elvira, like Donald, you didn't pay your taxes and that sort of, and everyone was getting really, really upset, and they wanted this seance to end right away. And as everyone who is watching this should know, there's a process to ending a seance. You just don't say, fun, see you later. You have to close the circle and thank the spirits and ask them to continue on their realm in peace, and you can exist in yours in peace. Well, before they got a chance to do that, they noticed this dark mass that was forming at the top of the mezzanine stairs, and it started moving down towards the table. And rather than go through this whole "thank you, sweet spirits" thing, they just, like it was out there. Yeah, there's a Harry
Oh my
Blackstone
God.
Jr. shaped hole in the side of the, and the medium died of a stroke a couple weeks later. She was like 36-year-old, I think, with
Wow.
previous known medical conditions. I was doing a table event a while back where a woman came up to me and asked me if I had any ghost stories about the Palace Theater, and I was like, "Yeah, but you're not on a ghost tour. You got to tell me yours first." And she had a friend who'd worked there, and he'd closed one night, and he saw this dark shape in the air in front of him, and he couldn't tell what it was. He didn't know if it was on his eye, maybe he's like blacking out, maybe he's there's something on his contact. He
Uh-huh.
couldn't tell, so he went like this to see if it was there in space, and when he touched it, it burned him, and he turned his keys in that night, quit. That was it. So um yeah, so
Wow.
there's that.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Hmm. Yeah.
Okay, let's see if anybody else asked about other things. Let's see. Uh, Magician Entombed, Greenlawn Abbey. Okay, so Betty had a question. Bucky, did your friends start the tours in Westerville?
Oh, okay, so Betty, I talked with Brenda from Mystic Nirvana at the Bigfoot conference in Salt Fork earlier this year, and she was like, "Hey, we had someone try to do something. You should, we should do this again. You ought to help out." And I was like, "Sure, I'll be over, talk to you, visit the shop, and we'll orchestrate a Westerville ghost tour." That was just a couple days before I had, like, I blew the engine on my car, and it was like 8 hours away from here, from Columbus. My car's still with this mechanic, all this stuff. So I never got back to her, and I see that she Brenda has, with Mystic Nirvana, has started a ghost tour in Westerville. So that's great. So, but no, that's not me. But Brenda is my friend. So yes,
And
I
her
guess.
store is in an old building. There's
Yeah,
got to be activity in that store.
she, she has access. I mean, it's I hate that I didn't have the time. That's why I've got to start hiring up, so I can, like, when we were talking about Tiffany, the development and stuff, like, I was like, I'm on it. Fantastic idea. Let's do this thing. And then I got so busy, and
Yeah.
yeah, her story, because she was like, she's got I have familial ties to Westerville, and they go way back. So I was all excited about it. But yeah, she's got, she can get in a stoner house. She can get in all these places. She already knows the history as a paranormal, as a medium and a sensitive. She's already got a lot of these stories developed. So would have been pretty easy for me had I the time to do it. But I just didn't, unfortunately. So I'm very excited to see that they're doing that. I wish I had time to even come on one. Hopefully I will be able to.
Yeah, right. Do you take other people's tours? Like, do you go on ghost tours?
Mm-hmm. Only
Like research, right? It's like, I
you
mean, just researching the competition, seeing what other people are
no,
doing.
no, 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 I won't
Like
do
that.
that. I won't do local ones. I won't do I only do them on vacation,
Okay.
because and even when I do them on vacation, I'm often hesitant to tell people that I'm a ghost tour guide, because it's not, I don't want to usually afterwards I might be like, oh, hey, that was really great. I do this too for a living, but I don't want to. I don't know, like if you go to a restaurant and sit down and be like, by the way, I happen to be a classically trained French chef,
Right.
how's the soup here? I try not to. I usually, and just because I strive to create something completely unique,
Mhm.
uh, I won't do local tours. I mean, I know Dublin has a tour, Worthington has a tour. My friend Scott, his mother is one of the docents for the Worthington Historical Society's tours. And I love Doreen with Landmark Foundation and all this stuff. And I don't want to step on their toes. I don't
Sure.
want to.
You can all exist. Like there's definitely enough for all of you
Yeah,
because it's
yeah.
different places too, like you said.
Everybody has their different take on things, and there's a different aspect, like the Landmark Foundation does these incredible tours, that they can scatter all over the city, and they can do a lot of different things, and it can just as easily move towards architecture as Ghost and that sort of thing. And focus on the creepy, the things that specifically that the Chamber of Commerce does not want shared, and that's all I'm going to talk about. And
Which I think for a lot of us is more compelling. That's what we're
yeah,
looking for. We're
yeah,
looking for the nitty-gritty kind of stuff.
yeah, exactly, yeah. But it was like, at the same time, I'm like, it's for there's something out there for everybody. So
Yeah,
uh,
yeah, and it can be
yeah,
geared towards what you're looking for.
yeah.
Even kids tours like you're
Hmm.
doing.
Hmm. Yes.
Rivka says she actually works the Palace Theater and has to go to the basement by herself a lot. So
Oh no.
I said, well, you're welcome.
Well, hey, Rivka, you know what? I got to tell you that one thing about that whole I would consider it a elemental. I'm not. One thing I usually tell people whenever talking about Houdini and Thurston the Great and everything, I have my own ghost story with Thurston, and it was a couple years ago. I was able to. I had the honor of portraying Thurston at Greenlawn Abbey. Uh, yeah. Mhm. And the their main fundraiser every year is this Tales from the Crypt thing where people portray these different residents, and I got to be him. And I think that I don't want to toot my own horn, but I think I did a pretty good job at portraying him. At least that's what they told me. And whenever they gave me this script, it was like, okay, I'm this rough and tumble kid that grew up on Livingston Avenue. And I was destined for a life of misery. And then I found Jesus and I turned into the greatest magician in the world. Well, I don't know if you've read the biography that was written, The Last Greatest Magician in the World. I happen to have a copy of it uh, right here.
I have not read that.
It's a
I want
wonderful
to.
book.
Oh, I have
Jim
that
Steinmeier.
poster in my office.
Yes, yeah. So anyway, it's a biography of Thurston, and
Okay.
I read it, and at no point did Thurston have a religious epiphany that led him to his magic acts. So
You're just adding that. Is that it?
yeah, so I took an exception to the script and I changed it, and
Good for
that
you.
that first night it was so exciting, like lurking in the darkness and waiting next to his remains, and his wand and everything was there, and I waited for the first group to come about, and I emerged from the shadows and I told Thurston's story. And at the moment that I veered off this religious narrative, the lights started to go zzz, 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 and I thought, oh shit, I'm in trouble. Like they're pissed. Like, so I wrapped it up really quick. I'm Thurston, and that was the end. And afterwards, Janice, who was the director then, she came up to me. She's like, "That was fantastic. I'd never heard any of those stories though. Where'd you get them?" And I was like, his biography. I don't know where you got, this whole religious thing, but anyway, she was like, well, that was great. Whatever. What was going on with this whole lighting thing? Did you have something worked out with Kate, the assistant director, for timing? Because I tend to go long on my things. And I was like, no, I hadn't done anything with her. We hadn't talked about it. So we went and asked her, and she was like, I never touched lights. So they just like, so I don't know if I pissed Thurston off or made him happy by telling his story.
In the right way.
Yes, in my my version. But anyway,
love that.
yeah, but the thing is, I'm sorry, I was the whole idea about the basement of the palace. I'm not a particularly religious person, obviously, and whenever I share the story of the palace and this dark, this cloud, this thing that maybe killed this medium, who knows? I don't come at it from a demonic perspective.
Right.
That is not my game, ever. Ever. Sensationalize telling of ghost stories that goes on on most television shows and stuff. I am completely uncomfortable with. Whenever we did tours of Ireland, we came across a lot of these stories of elementals, which are things that are thought to be older than humans. They've never inhabited a physical form, and they feed on negativity, and they can shapeshift and that sort of thing, but not a demon, and one thing about the palace, it seems, is whatever is there, it's for the most part benign. A lot of times it's usually just unplugging vacuum cleaners, and the crews have to go plug their vacuum cleaner in, and before they get back to their vacuum cleaner and turn it on, it's unplugged again, that sort of thing. So it's like, oh, you called me forth from the depths of hell, I'll mildly inconvenience you. So that's, yeah. So I don't know.
Rachel, and I'm excited to hear this, because you and I have talked about the Kelton House a lot.
Mm-hmm.
She says, I've had encounters at the Kelton House. Do you have any stories about that? And
yeah, endless. I visit on our day tour of Green Lawn. We visit the grave of the Keltons, the family plot, and I talk about all of them because they're all incredible people. Sophia and Fernand, like they're Lucy Stedman, their daughter-in-law. She's the reason OSU is co-ed. It was going to be a trade school, and she sued the state and said, screw you, like, you have to admit women. And that's why OSU has always been Grace Bird, their granddaughter, was the first one of the first people in the United States to have a career as a interior designer. She went to Pratt, and she was probably a little Elvira, if you catch my drift. She never had any children. She never got married. And she, whenever she was a very strong-willed woman. Whenever Interstate 71 was being constructed, it was originally designed to go straight through where the house stood, and she had it moved, the interstate, not the house, and
wow.
And she spent the majority of her life as an adult just having the house restored to as her grandparents constructed it and decorated it. And whenever she was getting old, she died on Christmas Day of 1975. She was like, I'm not going to have this house torn into apartments. I'm not going to have any of that crap happen. Either it's a wrecking ball or it's a museum. And the junior league got it, and it was actually I was just talking about Kate at the Green Lawn Abbey, who was controlling the lights that we thought might have her. She not long ago, earlier this summer, was telling me how she's a skeptic of these things, but one of her friends was there the day that the junior league took possession of the Kelton House.
Okay.
And up in Sophia and Fernand's bedroom, there was this giant wardrobe, and doors were warped and they couldn't get them open, and they were dying to see what was in there, but there was no way to do so, and they tried and they tried and tried, and eventually they gave up, and it was getting to be, end of the day, so they go downstairs, and all of a sudden this woman hears this boom from upstairs, and she runs up, and the doors are wide open, and there's, I don't know, corset here, a wooden set of dentures there, that sort of, nothing exciting really. But she was like, well, that's weird. We must have loosened it. Closes it and goes downstairs. And as soon as she gets at the bottom of the stairs, boom, and it's opened again. And that's when she was like, okay. And that was the very first day they took possession. Also, that day they were excited with Junior League. They had acquired this 1852 mansion, and they were moving the furniture around to allow for the flow of tours.
Mm-hmm.
And they came back the next morning and found everything back in its original position, which I think was Grace Bird, probably being like, I had a very expensive education, and you're fucking with my feng shui, you idiots.
You're a designer, right? Like, no, this is where it goes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I mean, there are tons of stories about the Kelton House. I could go on forever about that.
I know the reason that you and I had talked about it was because it was about Jason, because Jason lived in the apartments next door. Mm-hmm. And he had sightings.
Townley,
the military guy,
Oscar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was Jason and his girlfriend at the time were out back, and she actually saw the man, like in some sort of period military garb, standing near the fire.
Yeah, he died when he was 21 at Big Gun, Mississippi, I believe. Yeah, he was. And he's a constant fixture there. I mean, all the Keltons haunt that house, and it's one of those things where it's like, it's exactly as they knew it in life. So why wouldn't they?
And that's interesting that it is preserved for them, other than the. Mm-hmm. Other than the stuff being moved around.
Yeah, I always tell people we should all be so lucky,
So the backyard seemed like a damn portal.
Yeah. Yeah, that's there are a lot of stories concerning Oscar, the Civil War. Sophia, as she appears on tours sometimes. People talk about bumping into Fernand or Fernando, which ABBA just has 2 new songs out. I want to take you, but yeah, they are lucky, because they have a place in this physical world that is exactly as they knew it in life. So they do have a cool place to be able to haunt, and they all seem to. And I mean, there's so many fun stories with the Keltons, but one of the ones I always that sends a chill up people's backs whenever I talk about it is the baby dolls. There's a bassinet on the second level.
Okay.
In the hallway on the second story, and they'll be doing tours, and they'll go into a room, and they'll come out, and all the baby dolls are face down. There are 2 baby dolls that lay there, and they turn them up right side up, and they go into another room, and they come out, and they're face down again. So
that is weird.
Yeah.
And it did give me a chill. Well, that's weird. Huh.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
And to make them face down, like what? It would be. It's almost. It's just kind of creepy that they need to be not looking at you.
Yeah, I think that's well. There's this idea in like if in the Victorian era, there's postmortem photography. I have this. I'll show you a wonderful example. Usually, whenever you see postmortem photographs, they're like 5x7s.
Oh my goodness!
I have an 18x20 of this guy.
Goodness.
Yeah, here, I'll turn the light on my camera so you can see him. He looks like it's slightly colorized. It was a graduation present from high school from my best friend in high school, Michael. His father was an antique dealer, and he gave me this. Aww. Big, but he looks kind of like Mr. Rogers, I think. But sorry. There. So anyway, postmortem photography was obviously a popular thing.
It very
Uh,
much was, and there are some creepy ones of
mhm,
babies.
I've
Oh,
got a book of that stuff too. But the thing is very often, yeah, you'll see even in Victorian era cemeteries, statues of children sleeping on top of their own burial
mhm,
sites,
mhm.
and that's fairly common. Uh, and these photos, and sometimes if you were wealthy enough, you would have an oil painting of your deceased loved one, but it was always with the eyes closed. And the reason was is they believed that if you were to depict someone that was deceased with their eyes open, that would allow them to pick someone out from the land of the living to follow them into the grave. So, yes, so that's, which is what part of what I think with the whole like faces down. They're like, no, 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 look at it. they're gonna
No, no,
they're
no.
gonna bring you along. So that might be what the Keltons are getting up to with that. Who knows? Maybe not.
It's the little things, and it's interesting. It makes me wonder. These little things that they're doing. Why do they do them? Like
Hmm.
the little hauntings, the little things. The Because you and I have talked about the activity that I have at the shop at WitchLab extensively. I have activity here quite often. We've got one spot in the house that is where it always happens, and it's just like, why? Why these little things? What do you need us to see you? Do you want us to?
You need to put a little AV cart there with Golden Girls and a VCR.
We've actually put an altar there
Uh-huh.
to for the local spirits. So we will often give them offerings, like if you give
Yeah.
them a little drink of something, we light incense for them often. And I have a very small collection of like old ceramic ghosts. And
Yeah.
so my daughter put that on there because I was like, well, you get a representation. So it's like this, like, ceramic, like, whoa.
Here I am. This is me. Urgh.
But so far that's been it doesn't make things stop, but nothing bad has ever happened either. It's just little
Yeah.
things.
Yeah, well, like I said, like I try to block all that stuff out. But yeah, I mean, the the notion of these things happening in your house, and where you where you call your own space. One thing I've often found in in this is that usually if people demand things of the spirits, they listen, you know, which is interesting. I've never, but so many times, like in German Village and like all these places, there are these stories about people like they're having these experiences and they're just like, stop it, leave me
Yes.
alone,
Yeah.
go away, and it does, you know,
Yeah, you can't
and,
be forceful.
and that's what I try to. That's one thing like I don't prefer to have a bunch of children on our tours. Like I like to talk about the really creepy and really horrifying stuff, but whenever there are young people, I'm like, look, like I get it. I was seeing stuff when I was that big, and um and you can stop them, and you can tell them to stop, and empower people who have these experiences. If it's an adult, I might not mention that. But I'm like, oh, well, that sucks. Sorry. But if it's a kid, then I'm like, okay, here's what you do.
Yeah, because that can be very scary as a
Hmm.
kid, to not
Yeah.
understand what it is.
Well, it
And
can be scary, whatever, but I'm like, if you're an adult, you can handle it. Tough up.
right. So bringing things home with us, that's something that I wanted to talk to you about. So we went to the Golden Lamb, right, in
Uh-huh.
Lebanon, Ohio, based on your suggestion, because
Yes.
that place, and I fully agree, it was a lovely time to stay there. I loved it. We had weird, creepy stuff happen, but
Hmm.
the guy who was there to clean our room, um, we had gone out and then we came back kind of in the middle of the day because I had to drop off some things, and so there was a guy there cleaning our room, and so I ended up talking to him, and he'd only been there for like maybe 3 weeks, and he's already had stuff happening at his house now. And
Hmm.
his sister's mad at him because he's bringing
He
stuff
brought stuff
home.
home. Yeah.
So we were talking about sage and cleansing things and
Golden
using stuff.
Girls.
Golden Girls. If whichever one of us goes back to the Golden Lamb, talk to the guy who cleans the room and tell him Golden Girls.
Well, I'll be there soon. So yeah, I'm gonna I'll have to get his name from you. And
I don't think I got his name. But he's only been there for a little bit, and that's if he's still even there. Like his sister might make him quit.
a lot of people will quit these places, like they get run away from this stuff. And I don't know, the Golden Lamb though. I'm so glad that you and Jason got to go for your birthday and experience it, because it is a fantastic place. I think.
Oh, it's beautiful. I love how it's very original. Like the floor slants, like
Hmm.
it's very much, you are in a very old building, and
And in terms of
I love
ghost stories per capita, I mean, like that's there are a lot of ghost stories jammed in a really tiny. I mean, like it's a moderate sized building, but yeah, there's so many ghost stories there, and it brings that vibe, doesn't it?
Yes. Oh my
Yeah.
God. The hallways, the museum rooms are so
Hmm.
neat. The ones you can look in.
Yeah.
But I just love that all the rooms are open if they're not being rented.
Yeah. Yeah. They have them.
You
Yeah.
can, yeah, they just have like roped off, but you can
Yeah.
look at all of this beautiful furniture that they have in every single room. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Hmm.
Oh yeah. We were just like leaning in and looking at all these, like that desk and that armoire, and oh my God,
Hmm.
canopy beds and gorgeousness. Because at first I thought those were the museum rooms, and I'm like, oh no, those are the actual rooms. You can
Hmm.
just look in all the rooms.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. And I was lucky whenever the first time I went, I think we were the only occupants.
Oh
So we
really?
got to wander the whole hotel, and I was that close to getting the night porter to let me into the basement, and because whenever I was having dinner, the server was like, oh, okay, like what, the basement is no good. She's like that, and she told us a bunch of ghost stories about the basement, and we ended up that was a server at dinner, and that night ran into a couple of the other staff at the one bar that was open till like 10 p.m. And they were like they were reiterating how horrifying it was down there and all that stuff, and I was like, you have to get me in. And
You must see it.
it was that sort of like one of those things where it's like we got there and there was that one guy that was just like, I don't think so. I don't think so, mister, and I was like, please, 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 please. And it was like, I don't know. He said that, the low ceilings, it might bump your head and then he'd lose his job.
Insurance purposes,
But
blah blah blah.
yes, but but I was that close. So I know it can be done. I'm sure, like, and Stivers has got a queer son or nephew or something like that, right? So maybe just getting good with him, like applying with some applying with some oh, I don't know what it is, like poppers or something. See if you can get into the basement.
You're gonna bribe him with shit. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, like, here you go.
Here's some drugs.
Show me the basement.
Christina says that she went there. I went there at the end of my first pregnancy. It was amazing. I didn't do research before, and I kept dreaming of fires.
That was 18 years ago. You said,
Mhm.
okay, fires. Yeah, well, there was a fire, I think, in that building. I think that took off a couple of the floors at one point.
Oh, really?
If I remember correctly, yeah. Yeah, because I think they like where the that top floor area where the really haunted room is. That's where I stayed, which I think is a Harriet Beecher Stowe room now, they call it, but it was originally the Sarah. I can't remember the exact, but I think that there was a fire that.
That was the girl's room, right? That's the little girl.
The little girl, yes, and who actually died as an old woman, but who haunts it. Sarah is her name, but Harriet Beecher Stowe and her room, for some reason, those rooms are switched. And yeah, whenever I stay there, Keisha had just stayed like a couple days beforehand. um,
Really?
she's really into the paranormal and a big. I think she might even have a show or something now on it. But she had stayed just a couple nights before us, and I couldn't get the stink out of the room. I'm kidding. That's a joke. I know, but like Keisha's been in here, but but no, she had been she'd stayed in that room a couple nights before us, and that room there at Beecher Stowe room is the only one that they the phone doesn't work. They don't have a phone service up there.
Huh.
Because a landline refuses, like no matter how many times they've tried, landlines just won't work in that room, which is really
That is
really
weird.
weird and yeah, interesting. But I do seem to remember there being something about a fire there, and another story that I had shortly before I stayed there. One of the porters told me that there had been a couple who were spending the night, and they'd gone down. They were in that room at the top of the stairs on the fourth floor. They'd gone down to dinner, and when they came back, the light in the bathroom was like piercing, like not. It wasn't like a normal light bulb. It was just like this light like flying out of the room, and they were so freaked out they just ran and stayed in another room that night and got their stuff the other morning. So yeah.
So you had something happen there last time you stayed, didn't you?
Something went like that across my foot. Yeah. And I saw it was near the Vlandingham room. I thought I saw a shadow figure, which I'm not.
That's like the meeting room, right? The one.
It's a small little room. Charles Vlandingham, he was a Copperhead. He was a Southern sympathizer, and he had been exiled to Canada after the Civil War because he was all about racism, And whenever he came back to the United States, he had been a senator, I think, Ohio senator or something, and he had taken up law, and he was trying to defend a guy in Lebanon, Ohio, who had supposedly won a duel. So the thing was, it was 2 paces, sir, and his defense was that his client didn't shoot the other guy, but whenever the other guy was trying to withdraw his rifle or his pistol, it had shot himself.
Okay.
So that was the defense. And Charles Vlandingham was in this room on the second floor on the southeast corner of the hotel. And he was working out this whole, like, okay, so this is what I'm going to tell people. He went like this. And when he did that, he shot himself and died. And there's a creepy oil painting of him there, in that room. And that's where, like, the first time we worked together, it was at Seance in 2015. The year before, I had come up with the idea that I wanted to do a seance in that room and see if we could pull up Charles Vlandingham and send him right back to hell.
I remember this conversation because it was before the seance. It was before the 2016 seance. It was 2015 because you were like, I want to do this. And I was like, I think it's a great idea.
Yeah. But what we did was, what you came up with was a lot more fun, I have to say. Yeah, but
It was fun.
Yeah, but so that's the Golden Lamb is
Jason said the Thai place next door. Oh my God. I don't know. Have you eaten at the Thai place next door?
No, there wasn't a Thai place next door.
Oh, good.
There was whenever we went, there was it was just ice cream shops, and they all closed at like 8 p.m.
Yeah, it's like one bakery and ice cream, and and the whole thing did close down. We did realize that you can access that balcony that's right outside that meeting room that the man shot himself in. You can go out there and sit out there in the couches and stuff.
Yeah, I think that that was open. I think I was out there. Yeah, if I remember correctly.
I was excited about that. That was a nice little thing.
Yeah,
but the town is dead. Like you're looking down on nothing. Like there's
it's very um, yeah, it's got that Salem's Lot kind of vibe going on, where everyone just shuts the cupboards
It
at
totally
yeah
does.
at a certain hour. Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Well, speaking of it being late, I have kept you for 2 hours now.
Well,
So what I keep seeing over and over in the comments is that a lot of people want to do a WitchLab Bucky tour. So
mhm.
I think we should put something together.
Oh,
I
excellent.
think we
Yeah.
should we and also we need to work on something. We haven't worked on something in a while,
No,
and
we haven't.
we haven't. And I don't know if you feel like doing anything for this Dionysus and the Dead party coming up. I know you have tours and stuff
Well,
on Saturdays.
yeah, well, I am like right now because I have the book and the the tours. It does get to be like a spinning plates act. I love that you're doing this and that it's a benefit for Kaleidoscope. I don't know if you know, but I was the first full time employee of Kaleidoscope. Uh,
You were the first full-time employee. I did not know that. I knew
yeah,
that you were involved with them, but I didn't realize that.
I actually designed the logo that was. I think they've modified it now recently, but yeah, um, yeah, that
That
was.
makes me happy. Yeah, I
Yeah.
finally. So I've been telling everybody that it was a it was a benefit for Kaleidoscope, and sometimes some things just slip and you don't even think about them. I hadn't contacted them.
Oh,
I finally did that. I did. I finally sent out an email,
are
and I
they
finally
willing to take your money?
yes.
Okay, good. I'm
No,
glad.
they were very, very sweet. They were like, "Yes, please. That sounds great." Like, they were like,
Mhm.
"Here's the logo. Let us know if you need anything." But it was just funny because people were like, "So what did Kaleidoscope say?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, I should probably like let them
Well,
know."
know that we're doing this. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm very
Well,
excited
that's
about it.
fantastic. Yeah, I need to reach out to to them because yeah, they're right across from the Kelton House and the Snowden Gray Mansion. And there's the old O'Shaughnessy funeral parlor right there. Like that whole little town street stretch has got so many interesting ghost stories
And it's yeah,
associated.
everything on on that street is old. Like
Hmm.
it's one of
Yeah.
those parts of town where you're like this, that it's all big, old, beautiful, beautiful stuff.
Hmm. It's a tiny
Um,
little slice of heaven. Um, the
this Jason's asking about the Harding home. Have you ever checked out the Harding home or Memorial in Marion?
I well, I was at the cemetery a while back. I know the Harding home is supposed to have a haunted cuckoo clock. I think,
Oh, wait,
if I remember
I
correctly.
just heard that.
Yeah,
Okay,
well,
all right.
um, it's par for the course there. But no, I have been to the cemetery and stuff. Uh, it, it is really interesting. There are multiple markers there that drew my attention, and I started doing
It's
it.
the witch ball, right? That's
Yes, the Myrtle ball, yeah, or is it Myrtle family? I think, yeah. But which, yeah, rotates. But there's a few others there too. I chalk up to science,
I know, right?
but
No, there's probably a reason this does this.
yeah. There's not some like yeah. Uh, hag on a broom spinning around this ball like in a graveyard for any reason. Um, but the cemetery there, the town, yeah, there are some really interesting stories that I'm looking into. I've got one thing now, like doing with the books. I started with COVID. I began working on manuscripts myself, and then I ended up getting a book deal because of a ghost that I was researching for the Q files, and
Oh yeah, yeah, Lori
has
Jones podcast, right?
yes, yes,
Yeah.
her and Shane McClellan. I've often one of the very first shirt we had produced was Hester Foster,
I remember it.
the first woman. Yes, and it was Bob Starker. We had designed that to commemorate the ghost of the first woman executed by the state of Ohio, one of only four. And that story resonated with Lori and Shane, and they asked me to help them with a podcast last year. And I wasn't really able to do that because I was in West Virginia at the time, doing a deep dive on witch stuff, which we didn't even talk about. But uh,
Damn it.
anyway, you know, there's a lot to share, I
I
guess.
know.
But uh, they ended up having experiences with Hester, and they asked me if I could look a little bit more into her life, and I found her true story. And as a consequence, yeah, I got to. And now I get to write a book about these things. So
As a consequence, now I got to write this book.
no, it's fantastic. Well, no, it's just wonderful. It's like, you know, that a crisis ghost allowed me to be part of her story,
Mhm.
and that's how I see it. And that's pretty amazing, and it's pretty cool. So
Is it, are you doing cemeteries all Ohio stuff, or is it
mhm,
okay? I
the
wasn't sure
entire
what the scope was.
yeah, it's the entire state, and I cemeteries and ghost stories. You know, that's sort of a it's kind of a an old way of thinking to think, you know, I mean, because nowadays if you're thinking about cemeteries, like why would anyone haunt a cemetery? No one's ever lived in a cemetery. No one's ever, you know, if you're going to haunt someplace, you'd haunt, hey, you know, where you lived or died, blah, blah, blah. But there are actually quite a few really compelling stories about people haunting cemeteries, and and I'm having a really good time digging up these tales that are concerning people that in cemeteries that aren't really in the everyday lexicon.
Hmm.
You know, I'm finding some pretty unusual stuff. So
I'm so excited. I'm
yeah,
so excited for this book. So when the book comes out, we're gonna have to do some stuff. We're gonna have to, I don't
yes.
know, have you back on the show, do a book signing at the shop, do
Well, hopefully there
something
won't
like
be as much variance. Then we can yes, we can
that.
have a I'll have a kissing booth.
Love it. That is something
No,
we have never had.
no, probably not a kissing booth, but but you know, like though, I'd love to like have a book signing,
That would
and
be wonderful.
yeah, yeah, and I mean, I don't know, yeah, there's so many fun stories to share. I've the cemetery book is just the tip of the iceberg of some stuff I'm working on. So uh, I hope that I can share more of the witchy things.
Oh my God, I want to know more about the witchy things.
Do you want me to share one fun witchy
Yes,
story?
absolutely. Yes. I don't
Okay,
really have to go anywhere. I just,
okay, as
I
long
feel
as
bad
in
keeping you for so long. And
no, no, I'm cool. I've got
all right, sweet. Tell me witchy stuff.
I'm here this song. So,
Okay.
so I yeah, well that's since I was going to be on the podcast, I was like, you know, I should probably come up with one really fun story to tell you about witches, and I witchcraft has been kind of a focus of mine over the past year and a half because I've found all these weird, crazy stories, and we always think of women, people being persecuted for this as a old thing, you
Uh-huh.
know, past, and it's not, you know,
Correct.
in the 1970s, there was a guy that shot his neighbor on the west side of Columbus because he was convinced she had cast spells on him, you know. So this is always going on. It's
Wow.
never stopped happening, and it's what's the argument for oh well the guy in the 70s did it because he was crazy. They're all fucking crazy if they're calling a woman a witch and shooting them or hanging them or burning them at the stake. That's messed
Yeah,
up.
that was crazy
So
then too.
yeah,
Fuckers.
so anyway, a more modern story that I think is really interesting, and I, you know, I've been kind of toying around with I've been dancing with the true crime uh thing because a lot of true crime it intersects
I know. I mean, yeah,
with ghost
the
stories.
only difference is that you are taking that history story and then you're like, and since then, here's some weird shit
Hmm.
that's been happening.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
exactly.
I love the true crime part of your stories.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, they all are based in that usually. Sometimes people are like, "Why are all your stories so negative?" I'm like, "Well, no one's ever haunted a spot because they were tickled to death there, you know." Like that's not how it works so much usually. But uh, a very interesting story. Like a lot of stuff does, these true crime things sort of uh, cross paths with my research, and I've noticed an inordinate amount of stuff happens in March. I don't know why. I
Oh,
don't,
I feel like I can tell you why. March is the time I always feel like we need to get out of town because,
mhm,
like, it's the end of winter and
mhm.
spring just won't fucking come yet, and people are fucking fed up. I'm
Yeah.
telling you, it's a
So
time when people are just like, mm,
well, that's okay. That makes sense because there are so many crimes that have occurred, and particularly in the, because I would always think like, oh, the height of summer, August, whatever, it's hot, or there's a pandemic going on like now, and our murder rates are through the roof. But yeah, it's always spring. And I think that actually I remember seeing some reports at one point where, like, yeah, like guys experience their menopause in spring, and they're at their lowest level in the fall.
interesting.
Yeah, like men go through this, like, but anyway, a lot of stories in spring. And a few years ago, it's 2017, they found those a pair of boots with some legs in them in the Rumpke dump here in Columbus, and they didn't figure out who they were belonged to for a while. And I was researching that when it happened, and I found that there was another time in March in 1986 that there were a pair of legs found down near Cincinnati. It was across the border in Indiana, and these legs and boots ended up. They figured out belonged to a girl. She was a 21-year-old waitress named Monica Lehman, and through the whole course of the investigation, they eventually realized there was this guy, Johnny Lee Fryman, had been the guilty party in her murder. He was a Satanist who was like, I finally killed one of my witches. And and, what happened?
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was 1986, and he had this trailer park uh, altar, like thing. It was he lived in a trailer home and a mobile home, and he'd set up this devil worship site, and there was an old tombstone, but then there was like a plastic ram skull and all this stuff. It was a very spirit Halloween kind of, and and and
That's
he
funny.
had yeah, well, he had his what was his girlfriend's name? It was Beverly. I have her name written down because I can remember, Fox. Um, he had a girlfriend, Beverly Fox, and this Monica girl was one of his witches, and he was like, "Oh, I'm going to show you what we've done to the satanic altar and all this stuff." Got her there under the pretension of checking out the new, crepe bat decoration or whatever he had, and he killed her in the name of the Dark Lord, and they shot her in the back of the head, and
Doesn't
apparently
seem
what
like a very satanic death.
I know. I don't think so either. But
Daggers and things. I've
yeah,
seen the movies. I know what they're supposed to do.
yes, I
Oh,
know. I agree. Just
it's
so
sad.
that,
I'm so sorry. That's horrible. That's
but well, anyway, they waited until she decomposed enough that they couldn't bend her up and get her in the car. So he had to chop her legs off, and he dumped those in this graveyard in outside of a church in Indiana. But they never found the rest of her body. But he got caught, and yeah, actually, I wrote one thing that's interesting to me about doing these stories is over the past, like over the pandemic, I've made friends with a lot of people that are connected to the stories that I'm writing about,
oh
which
wow.
is amazing. Like I'm
Wow.
actually making these, and was contacted. One of the women who was friends with Beverly, the girlfriend at the time,
Mhm.
has messaged us, and she's just like, "Oh, you know what? I worked with her when this was going on. Completely shocked. Never would have imagined this lady would have gotten herself involved with this dude." But while he was in, I think he's in Warren County correctional facility now. Um, he and Krista Pike developed um, a bit of a romance and letter writing campaign. Which Krista was she was a teenager who killed one of her classmates in Tennessee in 1995, and
Oh,
she carved a pentagram into the girl's chest while she was still alive, and a circle and all that stuff. And then she used a piece of asphalt to bash the girl's brain in, and then she stuck her hand into the girl's head and pulled out a piece of skull to keep as a memento. And she writes him all the time and says, like, "Oh, I'm not like the other girls. I'm the real deal. I love to see the flesh split open. I love to see the blood spurting. It's beautiful before it turns brown once oxidation happens," and that sort of thing. um,
wow.
mhm. She's she's currently they're deciding what to do about her. They still haven't executed her. Oh, yeah. But,
That is intense as fuck, man. Like that sounds like a Satan movie.
uh-huh.
Like,
Yeah.
holy.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, these things have, yeah. I think a lot of times we always think that, you're, Geraldo blew it out of proportion, Satanist, Matanist. But yeah, there are people that were actually, yeah, doing
Yeah,
some
I think those
pretty
people are
intense
more
stuff.
mentally ill and
Hmm.
disturbed, you know.
I'd say so.
Satan's a label you can put on it.
Yeah.
Because I
Yeah.
mean, I know Satanists. I've talked to a lot of them. There's
Some of my favorite people happen to be Satanists.
right.
Yeah. So no, I'm not. No,
So
like
it's,
I'll.
but I mean, people do that in the name of everything, right? Like,
Yes.
it's, how many
Every.
murders have happened in the name of Christ, and you know what I mean. So
Mm,
it's like,
yes.
it's
Yeah. Probably way
there's
more
nothing
than
wrong with it. And
Satan.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
But
yeah,
but
right.
but
The
you know.
Crusades, hello.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. But it's I mean, if you wanted a creepy witch story,
That one's pretty creepy.
that adds a little
So where was that?
dash of true crime. He did that. Johnny Lee Fryman killed Megan Lehman or Monica Lehman in 1986 in Cincinnati,
Okay.
and uh, yeah, but then Krista Pike, that was in 1995 that she killed her classmate in Tennessee at the Job Corps Center. Um, but yeah, so I don't know. I mean, there's just always. Uh, it's interesting to me because there is so much, all these people that are being persecuted as witches and stuff like that, and then there are these people who have allowed themselves to be uh, swallowed up by that notion that such a thing uh, entails, reaching into the skull of a person and pulling out a little segment of bone fragment as a memento. Like, that's.
This is going on the altar. Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, like this will keep me safe. So, uh,
Will it?
no,
I mean, well, she's not dead yet. Like you said, they have an executor, so maybe it's working.
yeah,
But
maybe. I mean, that's because that was 95. Yeah, you would think she'd be dead by now, but or executed. She's been on death row ever since. So
man, and you said she was a teenager at the time, right?
I think 19. Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah. So yeah, maybe we all need a little bit of bone necklace.
I'm not getting it that way.
No, no, me neither.
I collect my
Um,
bones from things that are already dead. I had nothing to do with killing them.
yeah. Yeah, this has been ethically harvested
Yeah.
necklace.
Yes. Yeah. Like literally most of the stuff that we have in the shop, unless unless it's like old taxidermy where I don't know where it came from,
Yeah.
the new stuff that we have literally comes from a taxidermist who picks up roadkill.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Which
He
is
he does and if something he has people with farms, if they die for some whatever reason, whatever. He did this one. He did a peacock this gorgeous peacock because the peacock was on his friend's farm and it froze to death. And so he just made this. He taxidermied it, and it's
Yeah.
gorgeous.
Yeah, that's yeah.
Ethical
I
stuff.
have some pieces by people that just do that. Yeah, the ethically sourced stuff, which is why not? I mean,
That's yeah. I mean, that's the stuff that I carry, and the bones that I have at the shop. Literally, it's me and Jason walking in the woods and just
mhm,
finding bones.
yep,
So
exactly.
that's the way I
Yeah.
like to find my bones. Don't need to smash anybody's skull
Nope.
or anything like that.
No, no. Yeah, getting it rendered clean by bugs and stuff like that.
That's
No,
right.
too much work. Let nature do the. You know.
That's right. That's the way I like it.
Yes.
All right. It's almost 11. I'm going to let you go.
Thank you so much, Tiffany.
Thank you. Before we go, I want to say one thing. We do need to. We'll plan a tour. We'll book a tour because I have so many friends and regular customers, regular clients who would absolutely love to do something like that. So we'll
Mhm.
work out something that maybe is specific and weird.
Yeah, well, definitely. Like, well, right now, what I'm the 3 tours that I'm pretty consistently offering are we have a downtown walking tour that starts at the State House and it goes around the city, talking about the ghosts that haunt various kind of iconic downtown buildings, and then we have a daytime tour of Green Lawn Cemetery that is a little bit more Civil War era
Uh-huh.
based, and we visit the graves of these people and I tell their ghost stories, that they're wormy graves, and that involves a bit of cemetery symbolism and mortuary art stuff and history. And then we also have a night tour at Green Lawn, which is the first time in the cemetery's history they've allowed anyone to
I
bring the
love that.
public in.
I
And
was wondering how you were doing that, and I'm so impressed that you're working in conjunction with the cemetery.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's all been them. They've been wonderful. They were so. I've had several cemetery staff on tours over the years, and it just so happened, like, whenever COVID hit, they were like, you do wonderful work. Like, let's see if we can get you in and make this partnership happen. So yeah, so there are those. We do have a OSU tour that is on hold currently because of COVID, and they're trying to manage, who's on campus and who isn't. But that's a lot of fun, a lot of serial killer and UFO kind of thing. And
It's fun.
yeah, and I have one of our Booze and Booze tavern tours that's happening, which is way sold out right now. Uh, we're putting those are kind of on hold at the moment though because of COVID. So we just have
Sure.
this one particular one that we've allowed people to sign up for at the moment. So
Yeah, that's the bars closing was had to be a huge problem for Booze and Booze because you just couldn't go anywhere anymore.
yeah, there was that, and also was sticking people in the metal, rectangles and breathing each other's droplets and that sort of thing. Like, it was just, the business model there is I have people email me every day, like, can we do one of those? I'm like, right now we can't take people into kitchens and back rooms with no mask on, so they're drinking while food's being prepared and that sort of thing. Yeah, so unfortunately we just gotta, in terms of the future for that sort of stuff, we just kind of gotta wait and see where things go.
Where can people sign up to register for tours? Where can they get more
Well,
information?
you can visit at columbusghosttours.com. There we are. And yes, and I'm going to have the graveyard bingo things for a fundraiser again this year. We'll be at the Moonlight Market on October 9th, I think. Is that what it
Yes,
said?
October 9th. So you
Yeah,
can
yeah,
stop
yeah.
by and
Yeah. Yeah,
see
we
the
have.
booth and get some shirts and
We
sign
have a
up.
couple. Yeah, we do have a couple new shirt designs that are coming out that are wonderful. One that I'm really excited about is we had a guest come on a tour that was so inspired by one of the stories that she designed this tarot card about a phenomenal character and ghost of Columbus past, and we're putting that on a T-shirt. So that's going to be
Oh, I
one
love
I'm
it.
really excited to have. Yeah.
Oh, that's exciting. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
so
Lots of good stuff happening. All right.
yes, thank you,
Thank you so much, Bucky. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for
Tiffany. Thank you,
everything.
thank you all for watching. Thank you so much for connecting and catching up with me. I loved it.
Yes, yes, I know. I've missed our talks. I've missed our time together, and this felt like I got my fill. I'm fulfilled again with my Bucky goodness.
We need a night.
I agree. I
Yeah,
agree.
we do.
All right, everyone, have a wonderful evening. I love you all, and I will see you in 2 weeks. I think that's when my next broadcast is.
Hmm?
All right.
Unpleasant dreams. Zelvar.